fight for second in the championship is still up for grabs between Driscoll and Warling. With 2 wins apiece, they are the only other drivers in the Americas region to have claimed more than one victory. This will be their last chance to outdo the dominant Christian Challenger. We'll see if they can as we get ready to watch the California 500, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is Adam Lindgren and DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Auto Club Speedway looks set to abandon its 2-mile length for a unique half-mile layout in the near future. Before we get there, though, we still have this insanely fast beast. Let's head to our track guide to learn a little bit more about it.
Located in sunny California, a little bit to the east of Los Angeles, lies the Auto Club Speedway. This 2-mile D-shaped oval constructed on the site of a former steel mill in 1995 by Roger Penske and opened to the racing world in 1996. Auto Club plays host to regular NASCAR action every year in the spring, but has also played host to IndyCar several times in its past, including a closed track speed record of 241.428 miles per hour set by Gilles de Ferran in October of 2000. Auto Club draws a lot of similarities to the Michigan International Speedway as the tracks are sister versions of each other. Michigan has the more banking, but Auto Club is wider. Speaking of wide open is the name of the game for Auto Club, as the track's 14 degrees of banking that awaits the drivers in the corner really lends for some great racing. It is not surprising to see them 3, maybe even 4 wide in the corners here. Auto Club is notorious for chewing up tires. So as the driver, you have to make sure that your car goes fast, but then you also have to make sure that you can keep the tires on it. Auto Club also has not been repaved since the track opened, leaving the track surface to become very bumpy, especially on the backstretch and down the front stretch. All in all, Auto Club is a staple of every series that comes there. Drivers love the place, fans love to watch races at this place. Put it all together, and you have a recipe for surefire success. This has been our guide to the Auto Club Speedway. Enjoy the show.
There seem to be mixed feelings about the impending changes at Auto Club, but Adam, I think it's mostly down to the fact that this is something of an unusual layout when it comes to U.S. ovals.
Absolutely, Joe. Soon to be lost to history, this D-shaped 2-miler hosted IndyCars as recently as 2015, with Graham Rahal taking the old triple-wing DW12 to victory lane. The IR-18 has never seen the banks of California Speedway in a race, but this track has been on the iRacing IndyCar calendar for quite a few times since the new Dallara chassis introduction in 2018. With this being such a big circuit, you'd think the downforce of the IR-18 and the addition of undertray downforce would make driving and following here a breeze, but you couldn't be more wrong. While the leader will see a 10 to 15 mile per hour disadvantage going into the corners due to the draft, the following car will have to lift significantly to stay in line with the car ahead. The best way to set up a pass tonight will be to run the high line through the corner and hope you could draft the car ahead and swap over to the inside for the next corner, getting clean air and carrying your extra speed in. But with your competition aware of that strategy and a whole host of cars trying to do the same behind you, that's easier said than done, Joe.
It looks like it's going to be a bit of a challenge out there. We'll see how it plays out because it is a long race, and certainly the setups could affect that long run pace. Let's take a look at the driver's standings because, as I mentioned, even though Christian Challenger has wrapped it up a while ago and he is out here today competing, Driscoll and Warling are still left to fend for the scraps, and there is just over 100 points between them. Now, that sounds like a lot, but there's 500 points for win, and it dips down in 50-point increments in some places. So that could definitely swap around before things are all said and done. Liam Quinn, a little bit too far back to really get involved in things, which is sad because today he could be a threat. He's known for being an IndyCar master here in the majors, and Wade Hayes rounds out your top 5. What about the team's championship, Adam?
The team's championship, all the places are secured in the top 5, with Kinetic Americas taking the win last week. Unorthodox Motorsports coming home in second. Kinetic, the first team to win the team's championship since, I believe, we had a reigning team championship winner over the last couple of seasons, Joe, if you remember what the name of them were.
That was Alliance that has
Yes,
dominated
Alliance.
every single year. Yeah.
Absolutely. So the first year that Alliance has not come back, Kinetic Americas takes that win over Unorthodox. It was pretty tight during most of the season, but Kinetic coming up on top with Dogbear Red and White taking third and fourth, Sector 5 coming home in fifth. And then we also have the Legends Championship, which I hear is pretty close for second, DJ.
It most certainly is. You can see there Brian Barnes securing first place on the year, but behind him, it is an absolute dogfight with Wayne Hutchinson's, Kevin Hill, and Brian Bennett all within striking distance of that second place. There are 3 drivers to watch here tonight. Brian McGreevy back in fifth. He's about 50 points back. He'll have to really do some work, but with those 500 points out there available, he definitely has a shot to make it up there all the way to second.
And how are they going to compete for those second place championships? Well, here's the race details. This is the finale for tonight. And as we mentioned, they're running the Dallara IR18, the current Indy car that they run on the ovals. 250 laps to make up a 500-mile race, just like they did in real life here for the finale many times. It is an open setup in this series, and the teams, especially on the oval side, will share a lot of information among the teammates to try and get these things up to speed. Those are very closely held to their chests as well. They have an incident cap at 33. You will be disqualified. These Indy cars are not made to take any sort of contact, so not expecting drivers to be disqualified due to that incident limit here today. Hopefully we won't see anybody, because that will be incredible. They do have a spare car, however, in case they do get damage, which you will want to hold on to until later on in the evening for sure. This is going to be a fascinating one, Adam, as we have had oval races. We've had the IndyCar on the oval side, but that was at Indianapolis, which has some similarities to here, but I have to imagine this is going to be a completely different beast.
Well, the turns at Indianapolis are significantly shorter, so it's just about flinging it in and getting the right line in and out. Around here, it's learning how to follow in the dirty air of the cars ahead of you and how to manage the scrub off you're going to get on the corner exits. You can also have a tendency to go a little bit tight to snap loose on the exits if you're not very careful. So it's extremely scary for these drivers following in and behind the other drivers up ahead of them. And so you're going to see a decent amount of trains happening later on in the race, and also drivers doing exactly what we're seeing on screen now, trying to get those runs on the high side to make passes.
As always, we've got a charity for today's race, and that is the Susan G. Komen Breast Cancer Foundation. Their mission is to save lives by meeting the most critical needs in our communities and investing in breakthrough research to prevent and cure breast cancer. Find out more at komen.org. Now, we have our sportsman champion, it looks like, ready to talk to us. This is Mark Stevenson, who we don't always get to see here on the channel. As we've got the sportsman standings here on your screen, you can see that Stevenson has locked it in. Mark, welcome to the Pro Split broadcast. This has got to be feel pretty good being up at the end of the season.
Yeah, it does. Hopefully this race will end a little bit better than the last one, but I like ovals, so I'm going to give the pro guys a run for their money.
What has this been like for you this season, trying to claim that sportsman championship? Because we haven't, like I said, we haven't really gotten to talk to you a whole lot. So what have you been going through?
Well, honestly, we put together a team this year at the beginning of the year. None of the people on the Forge team, except for a couple of guys like the Hollick brothers, for obvious reasons, knew each other at the beginning of the year. So being able to jump into it and really gel with this group that has just found their stride and been able to put up win after win in sportsman has just been incredible. It's I won't say it's been easy. It's been a lot of work, but it's been a lot of prep too. And I think we are just maybe we're the best preppers of sportsmen.
Hey, Mark, this is Adam up at the booth. You've been doing an excellent job down there in that Sportsman Series. Who do you think's been your biggest competition on track? We know what the point standings look like, but is that reflective of what challenges you've been having on track this season as well?
Yeah, I think so. I think the standings are really reflective of the talent pool in sportsmen. You've got Daniel B. Johnson that has just been there in basically in second place every race, and he probably deserves more wins than he got this year. But then we've got like the other Forge guys who have been able to kind of keep Dan honest, but Dan has just been so bloody consistent. And then you have David Gargaro Jr., who's been really, really quick, but he hasn't made all the races. So he's down the standings a bit. But I think if he made all the races this year, he'd be right up there too.
And congratulations, Mark, for such an awesome season for you. Before we let you go, real quick, one, who would you like to thank, and quick prediction on what you expect to, where you expect to finish today.
Oh man. Well, I'd like to thank the whole team, obviously, and my family who watches the streams. Rob and Chris and Brian have been just invaluable at providing setup feedback and paints. We've got Zach there keeping me honest at the front, and then you've got Dan and Greg and Dominic and Ron, and we've got a few new guys too that'll be joining us for next year, and they've been joining us for the last couple of races. And as far as predictions, I just want to be in the top 10. If I'm in the top 10, I'll be happy. If I'm in the top 5, I'll be ecstatic. And if I go home with a win, well, I don't know. I don't know if that'll make the pro guys feel all that great.
Hey, I mean, it'll be a testament to your skill if you do. And it is Auto Club. It's one of the more crapshoot sort of races, so you never know. Again, congratulations, and thanks for talking to us, Mark.
Thank you very much for having me, guys.
Winner in the sportsman standings that you saw on your screen. Let's bring in DJ Clark here. One of the talks always when we get these 500 milers, these long oval races, is the fuel mileage. And I know you've been doing a little bit of research on that. I mean, what's the talk here for the strategy on that?
Thanks, Joe. Well, the talk at any sort of super speedway race like this is to pray for yellows. Obviously, you don't want to have to make any sort of pit stop if you can avoid it under green, especially with the D ovals like this or Michigan, the sister track that Fontana's originally based on. Very, very tricky to get down to pit lane from these banks. But if you run the whole stint under green, my predictions is you're going to be running about 35 to 36 laps in clean air. If you're able to tuck up behind somebody, maybe think about pushing that number up to about 38, 39. If somebody's really good, we may even see a 40. We get a yellow or two to come out, you'll basically be able to gain a lap for every 2 laps you do under caution. So that can really, really change it out. But what that's going to mean for this series is that you are going to have to constantly be watching that fuel gauge as we tick closer and closer and closer. The other thing is tires. Running the low line on this track, which we've said is the fastest way around, that wears out that right rear tire just a hair more, and you start to drift up off of the exits of the corners. So we may see guys coming in a little bit earlier than their maximum fuel stint if they think they can gain a couple of tenths on an in and out lap on a fresh set of boots.
Keep an eye on that. It is actually pretty ideal weather already, even without the sun completely being down. It's only 89 Fahrenheit on the track surface currently. Drivers will probably appreciate that. As you can see, the sun going to slowly set today as we start at just past 4 p.m. Eastern and go late into the sunset here in early November at Auto Club. Just about a minute left of the warm-up, and then we get racing for 500 miles for the season finale of 2020 in the majors. What a season it has been, with records being broken and astonishing performances all around. Christian Challenger above it all, showing himself to be the one to beat. For those keeping track of the championship between Driscoll and Warling essentially is likely going to have to win. And then from there, I need to check exactly. I think it's about 6th or 7th or lower that he'll need Driscoll to finish for him to claim that second place in the championship. We'll try and get you specific numbers on that a little bit later down and keep you up to speed on how it is looking between the two of them. We've just got a few more seconds to go. If they don't have a setup and everything locked in yet, well, then God help those drivers and their teammates who will try and compete here today in California at what is probably going to be one of the more grueling oval races that they will be running in this 2020 season. Checkered flag is out, and that will give us our grid here today for Auto Club. It is going to be Jason Brophy on the pole. Remember, I mentioned Liam Quinn fast in the Indy cars. He's going to be starting on the front row. Andrew Waring has put it into third with Christian Challoner into P4. Black stripe on the oval side, but usually enclosed fenders. Kevin Hill starts in fifth with Brian McGreevy in P6, followed by Adam Halleck in the seventh position. Lynn Kinchlow will be starting in eighth, and Travis Worling in ninth, followed by his rival, Steve Driscoll, on the same row as him, starting in 10th, Adam.
Austin Espedy, an IndyCar regular in the iRacing series, in 11th with Lyndon Swaby in 12th. Scott Corbin in 13th position with Mark Stevenson, our sportsman champion, starting off in 14th. Jeff Schmeier is going to be lining up alongside him in 15th, with Ryan Steele lining up in row 9 alongside Nick Kuhn. Bob Beltrami and Marcus Tracy round out the top 20th cars, DJ.
Starting off tonight in that 21st position is going to be Rob Gall, followed by Gerardo Perez Torres in 22nd, Aaron Roofs in 23rd, followed by Wayne Hutchinson 24th, William Fletcher 25th, and Justin Morton in 26th. Brett Towson going to be 27th, and David K. Hall in 28th, and lining up in that 15th row is going to be Jason Wallet and Brian Barnes. Joe?
As the drivers now take off on the single pace lap, they're going to be led by Jason Brophy in that bright yellow and black machine, which certainly stands out in a sea of blue behind him between the kinetic cars and the unorthodox machines here today. Looks to be the color to have for sure. Real quick, let's get one final bet from the pair of you before we get going. Adam, DJ, predictions.
All right, I'm just going to play the safe card, and I'm actually going to bet it on Christian Challoner taking the win. I know that he's not the most familiar with these cars, but I think that he's just on a roll this season, and I expect him to be up there challenging for the win. DJ?
You know, I'm going to go with our number 2 man, Liam Quinn, always strong here on the ovals. I think this is going to be a race that's really going to suit him.
We come out of turn 3 and 4 here at Auto Club Speedway. The Mustang pace car has control of the field. Brophy going to be able to go soon. There goes the pace car, and he is off early as we begin the final round of the 2020 season. Green flag is out. Brophy with a very good jump. Liam Quinn immediately takes it down low to cover off Andrew Waring, excuse me. Christian Challoner slots into the top 4 very single file early in this race. A little bit of side-by-side behind them, but Adam, it looks like a rather calm start.
Fairly calm start, except for the fact that Liam Quinn's going for the passenger lead right now on the inside of Jason Brophy. As Brophy's close to that high line, he's just going to back it down, actually, out of that lead and try to let Liam Quinn go through. Andrew Waring's going to follow him through as well. Christian Challoner staying on the bottom line. Looks like Brophy is content to just sit and ride at this point.
Week lap 1. I'm curious, DJ, since you were talking about drivers need to kind of picking various lanes to stay out of the wake of the car ahead. What is that going to do, do you think, to the track rubbering in? Is that going to make it a bit of a wild card?
It certainly can. You see a lot of these guys as they're roused, they all just spread out all over the place. You're going to see some good rubber really start to develop down on that low line. It's going to make it harder and harder to run as the race goes along. So look for guys to start working that middle lane around the midway point. And I think by the end of this race, you can really start to see that super almost NASCAR-esque high line start to come in.
Adam Halleck, who started this race in 7th, has got himself a very good early run car. He's all the way up to the lead as he overtakes Liam Quinn, and up into 3rd, it's Christian Challoner. Now, Brophy's fallen back to 4th. Again, it is a long race, so even though he doesn't seem to be good off the start, He's not out of it by any stretch of the imagination. Look at them all gather up in the slipstream down the long curved front stretch. But it's going to be Halleck who holds on to the lead. A little bit of a challenge from Andrew Waring. Look around the outside of Challoner.
And here comes, we're just taking a look at everyone going single file here. Here we go with Liam Quinn looking to the inside once again. He's just going to easily clear Halleck, and this is something that you're going to get used to as we watch this race go, especially on the restarts. The leader's going to have a really good run, but then by lap 3, everyone's just going to be bunched up behind him or having left him in the dust. So being the leader on these restarts not always beneficial when it comes to trying to maintain track position around here in California.
Already taking advantage of the clean track all around, because Hill, Espedy, and McGreevy were 3 wide coming out of turn 4 this time through. Up at the front, Quinn and Halleck go side by side, but it looks like Adam will retain that lead. No change among the top 5.
Very tight stuff from all these top 5 drivers. Look at this, Liam Quinn looking at the bottom of Halleck again. They're just doing the swap over on the straights, trying to maintain as much speed as possible. One thing to keep in mind for these drivers, though, is how long of a race this is. This is lap 6 of 250, so saving a little bit of fuel might be a good idea. As you see, the yellow and black machine of Jason Brophy has been sitting there in the 5th position ever since lap 3. And as we see another pass down low from Adam Halleck, he's just kind of sitting and chilling at this point as he goes actually underneath Andrew Waring on the exit of 3 and 4. But he's not really intent on making any sort of moves to pass. He just seems to be running his own pace as the leaders swap once again.
So it looks like Quinn going to take the lead away from Halleck. There was a little bit of a look from Brophy too. I was kind of thinking the same thing, because DJ, you were talking about the fuel strategy. Is it ever too early to start conserving, and especially with how easily it seems the drivers up at the front can swap back and forth?
No, it's never too early to start saving. You never know when you're going to get that unfortunate yellow, and the longer you can tend to push on an oval like this, the more likely you're going to get out of that danger zone having pitted and potentially getting put a lap down. So I think this is a really, really heads-up play here from Brophy to be doing this.
It looks like Liam Quinn going to retain the lead ahead of Adam Halleck. Take your pick. The positions all through the order are swapping around very quickly. Halleck now back down to the low side and gets in front of Liam Quinn. Behind them, looks like Brophy is actually going to get into 4th place ahead of Waring.
Yeah, so Brophy able to slot himself in front of Waring without having to use too much tires to do it. Waring, though, very content to sit on that high side. He seems to be doing late apexing on these corners as he slides in behind. Looks like Kevin Hills joined this battle up for the lead, as we have now a 7-car train, and those leaders just continue to swap positions as they try and keep their tires a little bit less worn out by swapping over in these turns, able to give each other all the downforce that's available.
Side by side across the line, as our 2 leaders are going to go in favor of Liam Quinn down into turn 1 this time. Halleck slots into line way up on that high side that we heard DJ mentioning was Andrew Waring, fanning out behind Jason Brophy. Another move down to the inside from Adam Halleck, just trying to easily pass back and forth. It looks like our top 2 aren't too concerned about how things are going, just looking to get as much speed as possible. Now, information on that battle for second in the championship. If Travis wins and Driscoll finishes 7th or worse, then Travis will take the championship. Now, however, the reverse of that, if Driscoll finishes 6th or better, he locks second into the championship. So we'll keep you up to speed on where those 2 are sitting. Right now, it's Warling in 10th and Driscoll in 11th. And make that Warling in 9th, as he just took that 9th position away. So Driscoll would still be your 2nd place finisher if they finish as they are now.
Actually, I wanted to drop us back to that second pack, starting with Travis Warling now and Scott Corbin. They actually had a bigger gap, about a 1.5 seconds, as we see Corbin going around the outside of Warling, as he wasn't able to wash up in front of Corbin there. They had about 2 seconds to the front group ahead of them, but they've been steaming along and continuing to push this second pack up to the back of the guys ahead of them. So Brian McGreevy in 8th place is only about 7/10 ahead, and they continue to gain about 3/10 a lap on this lead pack. So they are going to bring this group back up there the time they lost during the start.
As ahead of this pair, I see McGreevy on the inside of Waring, and Andrew Waring going to give that one up. He started in third, and he's falling backwards very fast, down to ninth place now, actually. So I wonder if Waring is just trying to get with his teammates. We hear this a lot on the, whoa, as some of them go very high on the exit of turn 4. We hear about this more on the NASCAR side, especially on the super speedways, getting with your teammates and working together, DJ. Is that just as valuable here with the Indy cars?
100%. Obviously, you're not going to have this sort of push draft effect like you have in NASCAR and these Indy cars, but being able to sort of play that leapfrog game that we always talk about, you hear it thrown out anytime an Indy car comes to a super speedway, being able to use both of your momentum to just sort of pull each other forward. And that's exactly what these guys are doing in the back, as that gap continues to come down up to that lead pack, just using each other to keep breaking that draft and pushing forward and pushing forward.
As the goes on here, go ahead. We're 15 laps in now, Adam.
Yeah, absolutely. 15 laps in, and we're really starting to see the effect that some of these setup decisions have made on the cars. Some of the drivers using low downforce, some of them using high downforce. Andrew Waring being one who's using that low downforce, as we see Brian McGreevy being challenged. Oh, that was close between Scott Corbin and Brian McGreevy. Travis Welling's going to slot up in between the two of them. That was almost an incident as they went into the corner. These cars starting to get tight through the center of the corner for those who are using that low downforce setting. And when they rotate through the center, when they rotate off the exit of the corner, that's when you can start to see it get a little bit loose, as you see a Brian McGreevy have to do a little bit of correction there as Travis Worling came up in front of him and took the air off his nose. Oh, and Lynn Kinchlow's around.
Oh, as do we have no caution yet? He's offline. He's down at the bottom of the racetrack. The number 44 lost it on his own, interestingly.
He clipped the apron on the exit of 1 and 2. And this is something that happens quite often, in my understanding, DJ.
Yeah, you know, any of these speedways, you can really catch it, and it's one of the great things about Fontana is that big runoff area there on the backstretch, but it's so slippery. Does a really good job there to be able to keep that car off the wall. Good catch, but you've got to be careful about that transition between the apron and the actual banking, as it will cause you to lose control every time you touch it.
He's still on the lead lap. The car didn't even turn around. He got it going. But obviously, at this point, he is the one most hoping for a caution, but he has lost touch with the pack.
He's one of those drivers that's definitely hoping that NASCAR, that iRacing rather, doesn't implement the flat spot mechanic that is being rumored, because then he would definitely have to come in. As we look at our leaders once again, Liam Quinn is able to pull about half a second of a gap over Christian Challoner. We're going to drop down to P5 because Austin Espen is really struggling with the front end of that machine. It's not turning the way he wants it to. He might need to get a couple turns in that front wing on his next pit stop.
He just took 5th place, and he's climbed up a fair bit. He started at 11th, up 6 spots now. He just overtook Worling and Hill as they get single file behind. We're watching from the gearbox. We've also got Brian McGreevy back there too, just holding on, drifting up a little bit off the corner. Everybody looking a little bit more steady than what we had before. Meanwhile, I want to go back to Beltrami the Salami, because he is in the huge pack here in the middle of the field.
Yeah, these guys are all packed together, and they are lapping quite a bit slower than our leaders by a good, almost a full second. And that's because they continue to run side by side like this. And as the tires get older and the downforce starts to become less and less effective for these machines, they're having to lift more and more in the corners when they go in side by side like this. And that's why you're seeing them continue to lose time to our leaders, lapping a full second off. And that's why you're seeing such a big group of guys, because these cars out single file can run a full second faster than this.
Looks like they're finally getting in line here. Beltrami leading amongst them. And then you've got Ryan Steele in there along with Steve Driscoll. Wow, Driscoll's dropped a lot since we last looked at him. Down in 17th. That's not good. Where is Travis Worling in all of this?
Worling's up in 6th, Joe.
Ooh, this is a very bad sign for him. And we also talked about Andrew Waring. Now, Andrew Waring is dropping very, very quickly. The 336, who started this race in third, is now down to 21st and continues to fall. It looks like Nick Kuhn, the next one right behind him, ready to try and overtake.
Now, DJ, when they're running on these super speedways and these ovals in general, for those drivers that aren't used to adjusting the weight jacker, is that something they're going to be playing with tonight?
Oh, very much so. And you may even see them adjusting it corner by corner as they come through here. To any of our listeners who don't know, the weight jacker is ostensibly a spring in the right rear of the car that shifts the weight to the front, to the back, to the side of the car, and it helps handling specifically off of the corner, so it'll make it looser or tighter coming off of the corner. You want to add more weight jacker when you're running right behind somebody to sort of offset that dirty air. The catch being is that it makes the car very, very loose. But with these D-ovals and the way that these run, when you come off of turn 2 onto a straight, an actual straightaway, that will be a different angle you've got to take than coming off onto the D. So they very well may be changing corner by corner and just trying to figure out what's going to work best as these times and temperatures continue to change.
And have we already had a DNF? I noticed that Fletcher's got, I think you saw something with that. Adam, what happened?
Yeah, absolutely. Fletcher got tight on the exit of 4, ended up hitting the outside wall, then slid to the inside wall. He's currently out of the session. I hope he remembers that he does have a spare car that he can use, because he can get back out there on track. He will be a couple laps down, but it's always worth it to try and finish these races in the major series, even the last one of the season.
Meanwhile, up at the front, I've noticed that third place has been swapping back and forth, similar to what we saw with Liam Quinn and Adam Halleck a little bit earlier, except in this case, it's Espedy and Brophy who are trading that third place back and forth. In front of them, it's Challoner in second and Liam Quinn in the lead, but they've been holding station, unlike what Quinn and Halleck were doing in the first 10 laps.
I'm going to be very, very interested to see how Espedy and Brophy end up handling this situation. Jason Brophy is officially on Team Talent outside of the major series because it's so late in the season he can't join that team. So he's working with Christian Challoner, Liam, and Austin. So they're all trying to be that 4-car pack up in the front, just trying to lead as a team up front here in this California 500. And it's going quite well for them, to be honest, leaving Travis Worling still about half a second behind.
Worling still holding on to P5. Kind of on his lonesome back there. He's towing along Adam Halleck, who's about half a second back. He should be feeling a few of the effects, but he doesn't seem to be trying to challenge as they swing around one another once again and onto the front stretch. DJ, we've had a few scares with potential cautions, but this is looking like we might actually get a green flag set of stops here if they keep going like they are.
Well, knock on wood, Joe. And as I said, as these guys come down off of that banking, if we do stay under green here, I would imagine we'd have stops probably within the next 10 laps or so, although we did get a report that somebody was able to run upwards of 40 laps on a tank doing some heavy fuel conserving from the downbeat. So we'll have to wait and see. But if we do get green stops, it's going to be tricky. You know, these cars are going 220, 230 miles an hour around Fontana. You do not realize how fast that is until you have to come down to this 55-mile-an-hour speed limit.
Back in 11th place, Wade Hayes, or excuse me, no, Aaron Roofs now in front of Wade Hayes. Just overtook that spot. That is Hayes in the darker colored car, and Roofs in the yellow machine just in front of him. Swinging it down into turn 3 one more time as we get ready to start lap 29.
Yeah, but it looks like Brophy's swapping over with Espedy one more time. It's like you said, Joe, it's been a very clean race so far. Everyone being very careful. That being said, there are definitely some drivers that are realizing the challenges of this race early on here, with quite a few drivers having some scary moments on the exits of the corners, just getting a little bit wide, not realizing that they don't have the turnoff that they became accustomed to before. One of the other things I've been noticing is that some of the cars towards the back of the field, about 14th on back, are running in 6th gear all the way around the track. Now that either might be due to fuel saving, And that's my expectation, is that they're trying to save some fuel running in 6 the whole way around the track. But they are losing out on that top-end torque that the IR-18 is known for.
The sun is going down now, so we should see the lights on pretty soon. It is just past 4:30 in the afternoon, virtual standard time here in California. Some interesting stats for you, by the way, as far as the varying experience levels go for some of these drivers. We only have 4 that are registered as B-class license oval drivers. You have 1 rookie driver as far as license goes. I won't out that person. And then we have a single world championship level black stripe, and that, of course, is Christian Challenger, who's currently second in the race.
Yeah, Challenger just sitting there 3/10 behind Liam Quinn, just very comfortable. We're going to go on board with Christian, and we're seeing him sit in sixth gear on these straights. Let's see whether he shifts down to 5th. Yes, he does, going into the turns. So while he may be doing some fuel saving, he's not doing that much. Wow, getting a little bit pushing wide there on the exit of the corner, but very calmly handles it. Yeah, Christian just in his happy place right now, to be honest, riding behind Liam Quinn.
We're on board the helmet cam. Am I seeing, is that Christian's face he's put on his mirror?
I would not be surprised.
It's just caught me off guard. I'm not sure why he needs to look at himself for all 500 miles, but I guess everybody needs a little bit of vanity. He's currently looking at the gearbox of Quinn and hasn't seemed all that interested in trying to overtake him.
We'll have to keep our eyes on who that actually is. We'll obviously defer to chat for that, probably.
Yeah, someone in the in his Twitch chat, who's also watching, see if they can ask him, see if he could tell us what is going on with that interesting paint scheme choice. Things are really settling in at this point. And DJ, how much do you think this is due to the tires, and how much is this just strategic? The drivers maybe want to try and get into the rhythm for the race.
I think there's a little bit of both, but the main impetus is really going to be on tires, Joe. You saw these guys really just going at it tooth and nail in those early stages. And of course, I'm being proven wrong as you see a pass here on track. But for the most part, these front runners are really trying to just conserve as much as possible. Not only the fuel at this point, but the tires to just hold on as much as they can. You know, those tenths of a second on your final laps of a fuel cycle can really cost you everything if you're forced to dive in and get caught out by a yellow incorrectly.
Nick Kuhn and Wayne Hutchison that we're watching on screen, similarly to many others, have been swapping back and forth. They are being run down by Rob Gall and David Hall actually behind them. So they're trading back and forth does not seem to be saving them from an attack from behind potentially. The number 31 continually closing in and is actually within 0.2 of a second at this point between the pair.
And Joe, I want to give us an update on Andrew Waring, the man who started 3rd in this race. He is now running 2nd to last car on the lead lap right now.
We got a taker in pit lane too. Sorry, Brett Trocine is in incredibly early.
Now, that's a surprise considering he was running slower than the rest of the field. So unless he has damage, I would not expect him to have to make this pit stop for fuel. Has he stepped out of the car? Oh, front nose change.
So I wonder if he had a little bit of contact, and maybe I bet you that hurt his fuel mileage. Let's head back to 3rd place in the meantime. Brophy's started to gap Espedy, and in fact, actually, it looks like Travis Warling, one of our contenders in the battle for P2 in the championship, is now right on the back of Espedy.
Oh, and Liam Quinn's coming into the pits.
And remember, Quinn was up front for much of this stint. He's following in a lapped car. That's Lynn Kinchlow. Trocine. Oh, Trocine's still on the lane. Something must be wrong with Brett's car because he's been in there for quite some time.
This is exactly what you were saying, DJ. 38 laps, and those drivers who have been running, especially outside of the draft, are all in.
They are, and now all eyes are going to really turn to Christian Challenger, Jason Brophy, and Austin Espedy, just see how long they've been able to save. And if I'm those 3 drivers, I am praying for a yellow flag to come out with these worn down tires, but we'll have to wait and see.
Still out there. He goes out for yet another lap. Can he reach the fabled 43? We've been teased that is possible. He's got a couple laps to go to try and do that. Brophy gets promoted to second because of the pit stops. Quinn is back out and running. Wade Hayes is just returning to the track. He's another one who's pit from towards the middle of the pack. Andrew Waring is in as well. We'll see if this helps his pace. Maybe he also experienced some damage.
Ospedy comes into the lane from third, Austin Espedy, and one of the things we can't take for granted here, Joe, is the entry and exit of pit lane. I know, DJ, you mentioned this at the beginning of the race, but those are places where it's really easy to catch yourself out, to either be on the brakes too hard or to be on the gas too hard on exit and end up spinning and causing a caution, which can end up hurting yourself or your team. As we see Austin hit his marks there. Here comes Christian down pit lane.
Like that whole team is coming in because Brophy signaled he is pitting. And oh no! He loses it under braking. This is incredibly costly. He barely ekes out from hitting the wall. He's going to get overtaken by Travis Warling. Nearly lost it to Adam Halleck as well. Many seconds under green. Lost to the number 372.
That right there, Joe, is just what happens. Like I was saying, you're going 220 miles an hour, and 55 miles an hour may seem like a lot in your street car, but it is an absolute crawl. And so you've really got to hit the brakes. I think he just, frankly, locked up those rears and sent him around. No damage to the car. He was able to avoid the wall, but still very, very costly for him.
Challoner is back out. Where is Liam Quinn? Quinn's going to get right on by, so he's not going to leapfrog him.
Yeah, Christian losing a decent amount of time there in the pit stop. He lost about a second in the pit stop. Not as bad as I thought it would be considering the advantage of new tires. But Liam Quinn does not have the benefit of having as much of a draft as some of the other drivers. So even more drivers coming into the pits.
Had two make it to lap 43. Beltrami and Steele. I'm watching to see if they come in now. And yes, both of them have made it farther than any other driver on their fuel strategy. This will hand the lead back to Liam Quinn with our first fuel cycle finishing out, and we have yet to have a caution.
And now we've got some significant developments as far as lapped cars are concerned. That whole pit stop cycle has put quite a few cars a lap down. Once we get everyone settled forward, we'll let you know who those are. But Ryan Steele and Bob Beltrami currently sitting in pit lane. They finally get put back down into the order by Liam Quinn, Christian Challoner, Austin Espedy all go by. Let's see how far these guys drop because they went quite a ways.
Yep, they're falling down. Steele is trundling back out, trying to get up to speed. We've seen in real life that it can be tough to try and get these cars going, especially on the colder tires, DJ. Is it pretty slippery trying to accelerate out of there?
It is. There's absolutely no banking to help you whatsoever. And if you get just a hair of a tire onto that white line, you will send spinning. You can put a little bit of positive weight jacker in it to try to tighten up the car a little bit, but still then you've got to feather the throttle very slightly to get it off that pit lane.
5 laps into the race. And looks like Challoner is on the go with his fresh tires. He set the fastest lap of the race, which was a 31.930. Compare that best one to Liam Quinn's, a 32.2. So Quinn's fast because he's still got the lead, but maybe not, or maybe just only more consistent than Christian Challoner at this point.
You know, with all that time that Jason Brophy lost in the pits, he hasn't lost that much time to Austin Espedy on track. I mean, he has lost time, but now he's in a battle with Travis Warling and Adam Halleck, as those three are currently having a little bit of a swapperoo around as Travis Warling goes by Brophy through the turn. Jason Brophy's just going to get him back on the exit of the corner. He will be in front of Travis Warling at the beginning of that lap. Adam Halleck looking on.
That first cycle, we're down to 24 drivers left on the lead lap. Last of them is Jason Wallet currently. Where are our two contenders for P2? Travis Warling still in 5th. Did we get Driscoll getting much? No, actually, Driscoll continues to do miserably. He's down in 23rd right now.
They're down in 23rd, second to last car on the lead lap with Jason Willett tucked in behind him. Andrew Waring, the first car a lap down, tucked in behind Liam Quinn and Christian Challoner, so he is continuing to do poorly as well as we continue to see Brophy, Warling, and Halleck swap positions there.
Let's take a though at those top runners. Liam Quinn ahead of Christian Challoner by about a half a second. As we mentioned, the pit cycle has caused Austin Espedy to lose touch with them. He's about 2.5 seconds down, which in oval terms is an eternity. He's certainly got plenty to make up. And then it's even bigger back to Brophy, 7 seconds down to P4. And as we said, he has been switching around with Warling and Halleck. I almost said Haddock. He's not quite flipping yet, but as Warling gets back up into P4, we'll probably expect that to continue to change. We hit the 1/5 mark as the first 50 laps are done here at Auto Club.
Now this is interesting. Christian Challoner is currently the closest he's been behind Liam Quinn since the beginning of the race. And I think he's sizing Liam up for a pass here. He might be thinking that he wants to lead this race. He's definitely looking to be offline from Liam Quinn, and he's not slowing up his pace to try and save as much fuel as he did last time. So maybe he's thinking, well, if I can't get ahead of him in the pit cycle by fuel saving, I'm going to need to pass him on track and just lead this thing.
Under Christian, he certainly would love to be up in the front and controlling things. As he backs off a little bit, the wake making it difficult down through 1 and 2. This has been something of a calm race other than the changing around and jostling in the first 10 laps. Everybody else has basically set themselves in line and only switches if they've got a leapfrog game going or if they know they've got better pace than the car ahead. This region tends to have some of the more interesting and most experienced oval races of the three regions we cover here in the majors. In fact, some of the most intense in terms of skill level that these drivers have to do with one another. 8th position has Mark Stevenson leading the way down there. Adam, looks like Aaron Roofs and Wade Hayes and Kevin Hill trying to keep up with them.
Yeah, all these guys have been swapping positions a little bit here, and not quite as cleanly as we've seen in some of the other groups, especially the one battling for the 4th position. But now they're all sort of swapping around, and it seems like they're being a little defensive here too. So if I'm a spotter on the top of a pit box, I'm starting to get nervous here looking at this battle going on right now.
Way down to the bottom. That got a little spicy, as that's Aaron Roofs in the yellow car that decided he is really not going to take any sort of defense from Mark Stevenson. Manages to lead this lap ahead of him in P8. And now he's going to slot up into line just ahead of the number 53, and he's going to get down low. Can he manage to take it away? Yes, he does. A lift through the corner from Roofs.
And here comes Kevin Hill looking on the back of Wade Hayes in the background of this too. So they're going to go 2 wide, 2 deep as they go through 3 and 4 here. And see, DJ, how much does this really take out of your tires when you're battling side by side like this?
If you're not careful, it can take a whole lot, especially if you're diving down to that low side. And if you see it, this is going to be a perfect example here for Roofs. He's not able to take the car all the way on the wide sweeping apex. He's got to turn the wheel more at the start of that corner to get the car down to rotate at the apex. That's going to wear his front tires as they slip and slide across the asphalt, and it's going to wear his right rear as it's really got to struggle to try to get the power down on there. So while this may make him feel good in the moment, I have to say for Roofs, this is going to end up hurting him by the end of the stint. And even if he does have a couple of extra gallons of fuel lined up in his tank, he's not going to be able to extract the maximum amount of speed out of those tires to take advantage of it.
I'm also noticing that racing line is really darkening in, and we're early in the race. There is so much rubber that's being put down on that track surface. It stayed steady at 89 degrees Fahrenheit, so we don't seem to be having it heat up too drastically. Granted, we don't know if that one strip is going to change if they stay green for much longer. Looking back at Challoner, he's holding 3/10 behind Liam Quinn. Hasn't challenged since he got up to that gearbox, but also hasn't dropped away. Espedy remains at about 2.5 seconds behind these top two.
Yeah, Christian has fallen off just a little bit from Liam Quinn. He was definitely challenging him for a potential pass, but Liam is putting his car exactly where it needs to be. The only way that Christian's going to be able to get an advantage on Liam is if we get a little bit of a tire advantage from these guys. Especially because we're getting further on in the stint, and both of these guys are having trouble getting up off the corner and maintaining speed down the straight. So Christian looking like he's just going to settle in for this stint once again. We're 16. Liam Quinn's about 19 laps into his stint. Christian Challoner's 16 laps into his. So the disparity between their tire wear, especially if we continue to do green flag pit stops, is going to continue to grow. And at some point, Christian Challoner's going to have the opportunity to overtake Liam Quinn.
I think it gets spicy if it comes down to these two in the final laps for the win, because as we know, Christian Challoner already has the championship. He has nothing to lose. He just wants to go for the win, keep upping his stats, which he has done mercilessly this season. But on the flip side, Liam Quinn, who is not in a fight for position really, except for Wade Hayes potentially behind him, he is winless this season. Liam Quinn would love to put his stamp on the end of the season by not only finally getting a win, but doing so in the car that he is probably most known for. And this is Wade Hayes that we're looking at right now. Where is he actually in terms of position? He's sitting in 10th currently. So yeah, he's not really under threat. I think Quinn, who probably doesn't care too much whether he's 4th or 5th in the points, I have a feeling he's just going to go for it.
Oh, absolutely. It's what I would do around here for sure. Wade Hayes just struggling with some traffic right now. That's Jeff Schmeier trying to pass him. Jeff has climbed up quite a bit over the course of this particular stint. He's just continuing to cut his way through the field. He's saved his tires for this point during the race, and now move him up to 10th position as he just snakes by Wade Hayes. So Jeff Schmeier doing a great job managing these stints.
Drop off there off of turn 2 for Wade Hayes. Kevin Hill, who gets up to the back of him, must be saving fuel because he definitely lifted along that back stretch. So right on his nose now, looking ahead. Really gives you the best sense of speed this slow to the ground as the car screams along.
DJ, how terrifying is it when you go into one of these corners, you start to come out the other side, you realize that you're going to be going a little bit wide? What do you do in that situation? Because instinct would tell you to turn the wheel more, but that doesn't always help.
No, it is the most counterintuitive thing in the world you have to do, but you actually want to turn the wheel to the right. When you slide up in the corner like that, the car is understeering and there's a lack of grip on those front tires, and so what you want to do is unload those front tires, get the contact patch pointing in the direction that you are going, and then that will allow you to keep turning it back left once you've done that. It's really, really terrifying to do. You think it's going to send you right into the wall, but it will save you every time.
Finally getting some information from the peanut gallery. The photo apparently on Christian's car is someone named Tanner Watkins. We're all kind of scratching our heads because we don't know who that is in the booth. Maybe we can be filled in if that's a friend or any sort of notable figure. So we continue to watch our drivers fight on the way down through 1 and 2. Schmeier on the high side. As ignore that smoke. I think that was just a little bit of connection issues for Jeff.
Yeah, quite a few of these mid-pack runners are starting to get into these little battles side by side right now. We're looking at Schmeier and Stevenson. Oh my goodness! That was Stevenson almost getting into Schmeier on the exit there. That was sketchy. Here comes Kevin Hill and Wade Hayes. They're looking to capitalize on this. It's going to be almost 3 wide when they go into 1. Kevin's going to be able to clear Wade, but now he can't carry the speed through the corner.
Very scary moments there for our amateur or sportsman championship winner, who was looking for hopefully a top 10, maybe even a top 5 today. He was in the top 10, but with that overtake, that slots him down to 11th. Wade Hayes might even put him in 12th. They're looking at 3 wide. That's a lapped car, Brett Trocine down low, who's just trying to rifle off the laps.
Entry-wise, pretty easy around here, but that being said, Stevenson's car looks very unstable. He almost makes contact with the pack of Wade Hayes going into turns 1 and 2. If you punch that gearbox going into the corner, that would send Wade straight up into the wall and almost assure him having to get that spare car out.
I mean, DJ, there's no such thing as a small accident at a track as fast as this.
No, and I can tell you as somebody who was at this track at the last time Indy cars did run here and had a front row seat to the very terrifying accident of Ryan Hunter-Reay and Ryan Briscoe pinwheeling through the infield. If you are going at these speeds, if you touch anything at all, it is going to be big. Yes, this series has a 33 incident limit.
But
we have a caution. Here we go.
I'm trying to figure out who it is. David Hall, maybe? Trying to figure it out. No, it wasn't David Hall. Interesting. So I'm looking through just to see if I can spot anybody in the field who is maybe offline or spun around. I'm not seeing anybody.
This is interesting. Yeah, it's hard to spot. There's not any specific incident necessarily.
Might have been Wayne Hudson. We're checking here on the replay. In the meantime, I am I've found where the lights come on the pace car, so I'm actually going through to see if I can figure out who caused it. Oh, it is Brett Trocine. It is Brett Trocine and the 944 that has caused the incident. It happened in turn 2. He touches the apron, just gets it a little bit too low. Here it is right here. He actually catches it, which is a miraculous save, but unfortunately he was sideways enough that triggered the automatic caution from the iRacing stewards. Now we have, for the first time, yellow flag pit stops as everybody is in.
It's going to definitely change the complexion of the races. Everyone's going to be on the same pit strategy from here on out. Liam Quinn waiting for his car to drop. It will drop. I think Christian Challoner's going to beat Liam out, and that was Austin Espedy that beat them all out of the pits.
Wow. And that, I think, was just a lightning fast pit stop from Espedy. Challoner beat him by inches, so Challoner will take the lead. I don't think we had anybody risking on 2 tires. Looks like
fascinating, Joe. I just went and looked at the replay, and based upon what I'm seeing on screen, Espedy definitely beat him, but it's scoring Challoner as having beat him out of the pit lane.
Okay. This changes everything. Did we have anybody risk staying out? Take another look at that and see if we've got confirmation. Here's the replay of the pit exit. Trying to get an angle on it. We might try one more time here. Do we have a pit exit cam potentially? Let's see if we can pull that up. Here it is right here.
Yeah, I mean, based upon that image, I do believe that Austin beat him out, but according to iRacing scoring, he didn't.
So we come live. I believe we should go. Yes, the lights are out. So we're going to be going green next time by. Challoner leads, Espedy second. Quinn down to third from that. Brophy still in 4th. I think he is a definite contender for the victory. How about Travis Warling? Remember, we mentioned that he needs to win, with Driscoll finishing 7th or lower to take second in the championship. Now, he's not in a winning position. Driscoll's down in 23rd. I think I would estimate, now this is not for sure, but I think the points, if they finished as they are, Warling would actually take that P2.
That would definitely be a development for sure. Now, Joe, one of the things we have to warn the viewers about is that in the other 2 regions that the majors race in, these restarts were where most of the incidents ended up happening, and it was an accordion happening leading up to the restart. Some people leaving a little bit too much of a gap. So keep your eyes open for gaps between cars as they start to wind through 3 and 4. And keep your eyes on those gaps, because if they start to close a little bit too fast or a little bit too early, you might see some drivers spinning out or running into each other.
A few gaps, but they're mostly trying to close them in. As we wait for the pace car to peel in, Christian Challenger going to have control of the field after starting this race in 4th. Pace car's in. He's holding them a long time. Now he accelerates, and the green flag is out. Christian Challenger leads on lap 71 here at Auto Club Speedway.
And there was a giant checkup in the back of the field. I believe that was with Brian McGreevy, who's now falling back through the field. But everyone's in front is starting to get going once again and getting going pretty cleanly. So looks like we're going to remain green here. Christian Challenger trying to hold off Austin Espedy, who has plenty of experience in this IR18, trying to make his progress for sure. Look at this, Espedy to the bottom.
Into the lead, easily past Christian Challenger. Wonder if that's why Christian maybe was waiting so long, so that he couldn't get as much of a slingshot, but it didn't work. Christian going to come back at him down the front stretch. Looks like Espedy will lead that lap into the first corner. Christian to the high side. Does he have the pace? Does he have the momentum? It doesn't look like it as the car starts to fall back, and he will indeed have to settle for second. Liam Quinn, oh my goodness, a monster run, but he lifts. So does Brophy, and so does Worley.
Cooler heads prevailing here as we're on this restart once again. DJ, it's changes so much when you get these new tires and you get into these packs, as we see Christian Challenger go to the lead. How much of a difference does it make when you get packed up like this?
It's night and day, Adam. It's the difference between driving a Formula One car and a NASCAR. The level of grip you have coming through these corners. You feel like you can put the car absolutely anywhere. You can do crossovers, anything like that. And that's why you're seeing these guys darting down to the inside of the track here as Challenger working his way, trying to do an outside line.
Underneath him once again, Austin Espedy back to the front. They're still being trailed by 4 cars. Worling back in 5th, and you finally get a gap behind them to the next pack, being led by Schmeier.
Here comes Worling to join the battle up in front with these guys. The top 5 now tucked in underneath 0.2 of a second as they go around here. Top speeds in excess of 230 miles per hour as they go into turns 3 and 4.
Coming around, and it looks like Christian's going to lead that one. Speaking of how the drivers are scored, which could actually be under threat there, that time across the line, Espedy by 1/1000th of a second. Apparently, we're getting information that the transponder is at the rear of the car and not on the nose, and maybe that is why Christian Challenger claimed the top spot.
So more side-by-side battling for that lead. Christian Challenger down on the low side. Austin Espedy on the high side. Christian's going to get the job done through the corner, but Austin's going to have a better run out of the corner. We had an accident in the back. Aaron Roofs has sent around Adam Halleck in the front stretch.
So caution flag is out. Halleck comes to a halt in the grass. This was coming off the corner. It looks like the slightest of touches. Roofs continues on. No contact with anything else from either car. So everybody's going to be able to restart here, but hugely scary moments for both drivers.
That's exactly what you were talking about, DJ. Just any sort of touch at all ends up setting these cars around.
Yeah, and it just looks like Roof tripped it up just a little bit as he came down on him. So just sort of getting into each other, and just the way these cars work, you touch, you're in the wall. Rubbin is not racing an Indy car.
No, you do not want to be making contact with anybody out there on the track for sure. So we're shortly after our last set of stops. We'll wait and see here if anybody comes in. I don't expect we get anybody, and indeed they are going to go by the pit entry, will all the leaders. So with that, we're going to take, we got a few takers down in the lane. They're mostly mid-packers, as it looks like. Beltrami in among them, along with Torres, Hall, Kuhn. I see Hutchison. Driscoll is in among them. Steele, Morton, Tracy. So basically, it looks like the latter half of the pack are going to come down and take some pit stops. This will certainly shuffle things up drastically. We'll give you an update on how all that ends up when we come back in just a moment. Stick around for more racing here at Auto Club, the finale of the Majors Series Americas region. Welcome back to Auto Club Speedway. It's the final race of the season for the majors, the California 500. And right now, Christian Challoner is leading after our second caution of the race. We're going to be restarting on lap 79 here today out of 250. Austin Espedy giving chase with Liam Quinn, who has led the most laps of anybody so far in this race, but now down to third since the last pit stops. Brophy behind them, and Jeff Schmeier up to a top 5 from 15th on the grid. Certainly a hard charger here today.
Everyone doing a great job right now. Everyone, frankly, being very patient throughout this race. We're still less than halfway by quite a bit here, just over crossing, I believe, close to the 1/4 of the way mark with these guys. So everyone being very gentle here. Let's see how Christian's going to handle this restart, because waiting for a long time didn't really help him out last time.
It did not. It was easily an easy overtake for Austin Espedy. There goes the pace car. He's going to wait a little bit. He goes slightly earlier, does Christian Challoner this time. Espedy is going to follow him through.
Time wreck in the back. Huge. David Hall's around.
See Rob Gall involved in it. Let's see. Wayne Hutchison is involved in this one. This starts, let's see, I think with David Hall and Torres potentially here. Yeah, Torres gets hit by Hall. We're going to see it on the replay. And then some great escapes from the cars behind them. Here we go. Love to see an onboard from Bob Beltrami after we see this angle. Yeah, there's the big problem. It's exactly what we talked about earlier on, just an accordion effect. The number 14 had a front row seat and lightning reflexes to avoid the incident. Watch this. Nice hands, nice hands. This is exactly what you described, DJ, that the accordion effect for some drivers on the restarts seemed to be a little bit tricky.
It is, it's one of those things of if you're second or third place and you lift off the throttle for just a half a beat, what that does to everybody behind, it just exponentially gets worse and worse and worse. Unfortunately, this is what happens on restarts of any nature in these kind of cars. So very tough to see everybody there, but hopefully everybody's going to learn their lesson, be a little bit nicer on the loud pedal on this next restart.
On screen, this is the number 53 of Mark Stevenson, who's going to join us for an in-race report here. Mark, welcome back to the booth. You've managed one of your goals here. You've been within the top 10 for much of the race. What's it like from inside the cockpit currently?
Things are getting pretty tight. My set is really good in the short run, but not so much in the long run. So I'm just trying to manage tires here a bit. So far, it's been really clean. There's been some close calls, but the guys up front they've got something going on that I don't. So I don't think I'm going to be catching them. But mixing it up here in the top midfield is probably going to be the best thing I can do today.
Hey Mark, it's Adam. You had a really scary moment up there with Aaron Roos just a couple of about 20 laps ago when you ended up going just a little bit wide on the bottom of the corner. How much did your blood pressure rise from that one?
Yeah, the heartbeat went a little bit. I find when you have a car on your outside, especially when you're coming out of 4, you do get really tight. And there's no clean air here. If there's 2 cars in front of you, you can't really get any downforce, even if you're like a half a second if you're a second and a half back, there's no clean air. So it was close. I was all the way out of the throttle, and thankfully we kept it clean.
Thank goodness that we still got you out there in the race. Now, you mentioned that the short run seems to be better for you. We've been getting a spate of those now that we've got a bunch of cautions. Do you feel like that bodes well for maybe the rest of the race for you? Because like you said, the first part did not seem to favor your car.
I don't think so. I don't think these cautions are going to help me because I'm not getting fresh tires. If we were not limited on tires, I'd be ducking in every time and burning some rubber. But with these 10 sets that we have limited to, and with nobody else going in, it just doesn't make sense to go and grab new rubber.
Well, we see the lights are out, so we're going to let you go and focus on the race. Best of luck.
Okay, thank you very much, guys.
Stevenson currently running in P10. So we're already hearing some drivers not too happy with how their car is in the long term. And that was kind of one of my concerns, DJ, is wondering who set up the car thinking big picture.
Yeah, the thing is on one of these races, you do have the time, though, to do what Rick Mears used to always do at the 500. Dial it in just a little bit more as the race goes along. So don't be surprised if some of these guys are making some front wing, rear wing adjustments each time they dive into the pits.
Get ready to go this time by Christian Challenger, going to lead away. Cautions have already bred cautions. Can we get another long green flag run? Restarting on lap 83. So not even halfway through this one quite yet. He has the pace car down low as he holds it up high. Watching carefully is Espedy behind. Is it going to be a similar start to before? Holds them. Christian holds them. Now he goes. Wow, a very good start from Austin Espedy. He was right on top of it as he stays right underneath the gearbox, already closing in. Look at the teammates of Quinn and Brophy. Fans out down low. He's going to swap with the number 77, who falls back to third. Behind them, Jeff Schmeier seems to be the only one in the top group that did not get the memo.
Just a little bit of an accordion effect towards the back of the pack, but everyone was able to get through pretty cleanly as Schmeier continues to have a little bit of connection issues in that fifth position. Travis Worley's going to duck underneath him. Look at this. Liam Quinn, though, currently leading this race. That lead is just not going good for Christian Challenger off the beginning of these restarts. And so Austin Espedy passing him on the bottom as well. Jason Brophy's going to look to the bottom. So Christian Challenger's going to have to try and slot in front of Brophy as Brophy slides up behind him. It's currently 1, 2, 3, 4. Quinn, Espedy, Challenger, and Brophy.
Jockeying for position. Espedy's going to change that up. He'll get down to the lead now using that slipstream to take the front away from Liam Quinn. Challenger demoted back to third. I don't think he's been farther down than fourth at any time in this race. Underneath Espedy, Quinn back up to the front. Brophy looking to get involved too. He is down to the low side of Christian.
We have two new blue cars joining the fray in the back. That's Scott Corbett in sixth, Travis Worling in seventh as they tuck in up behind these guys. Travis Worling obviously looking for that win as Espedy ducks down to the bottom side of Liam Quinn once again. They're starting to do that swap over that we saw before. Now remember, these guys are on 16-lap-old tires at this point in the race. They've done about 6 laps under caution, so that's realistically about 10-lap-old tires, but they have gone through a heat cycle, so the race is going to look a little bit different than we saw before with a couple of the drivers, once again, Liam Quinn up to the lead.
And the lone wolf in this group has got to be Jeff Schmeier, who actually drops back a lot. He got way too high, and he fell all the way to 8th after he was potentially looking at 3rd. You can get a replay of his onboard. Yeah, look at how high up the corner he is. He's actually out of the groove. There you can see it. He's in the gray stuff already.
There he is, DJ doing exactly what you said, unwinding the wheel a little bit, letting that car run out wide and trying to save that thing.
Yeah, it's the only way you've got to do it, but he's getting real lucky there, starting to get up into the marbles. That is just a one-way ticket to the wall, so kudos to him. He lost a lot of time, but he's able to keep it off the wall.
Back goes Espedy ahead of Quinn, who continue to leapfrog one another. Christian Challenger, we know he's a wise head. I can't call him a wise old head quite yet, as the youngster already claiming multiple championships here in the majors, knows what he's doing here on the Oval's foreshore. Quinn now back to the front.
One of the things that you can do in these IR18s is in any sort of IndyCar is use the dirty air off the back of your car as a weapon. You can use that to cut off the lane of the car in front of you. If you see them going into the corner a little bit higher than you can just inch up a little bit into their lane and end up putting them into a little bit of dirty air and make them wash out of the corner. And you're going to see more of that as we get later on in this race. But up to this point, it's just been the Liam Quinn, Austin Espedy, and Christian Challenger show at the front of the pack, and Jason Brophy riding there in fourth.
Two Connecticut drivers have got quite the dance going on. They've coordinated it very well up to this point, as they've been trading consistently twice a lap between the pair of them, Espedy, then Quinn. Drifting up a little bit behind the yellow and blue car of Christian, the white and blue car of Christian Challenger, falling back slightly.
Yeah, Christian just kind of biding his time, letting his, giving his front end just a little bit more cleaner air. Not clean air, I would say, but cleaner air as he continues to run in that third position. He's got Jason Brophy looking on, definitely hungry for some more action for sure. And tucked in behind them is Scott Corbin, who looks like he's starting to get a little bit feisty in there as well, up in that fifth position.
I mean, speaking of feisty, if we could go back to Stevenson in 11th, himself and Roofs have been trading back and forth, and they almost had contact last time onto the backstretch. I wonder if this is that understeer that Stevenson was talking about.
Absolutely. His car looks really unstable. I've been watching this battle as well, seeing whether or not it's going to erupt into anything big, but Stevenson is just losing a little bit too much time around here at this moment. He continues to fall back, and I think that car's just too loose for his liking, and I'm not sure whether he's got that thing getting adjusted as much as he'd like, but he needs to try and stem this bleeding, otherwise he's going to continue to fall back.
In front of him, Aaron Roofs is on the go. He's already challenging Kevin Hill, looking for 9th position. I know you're seeing a few puffs of smoke. Again, that is simply drivers with some connection issues here during the race, so no need to panic when you see those. You will know when we hit that is due to a wreck, because we will certainly be shouting and hollering during this, because the caution will immediately come out, it seems. Off the corner, drifting all the way up high, and now suddenly Roofs is the one falling back and gaining Kevin Hill on Jeff Schmeier, looking for P8.
That's how quickly it can happen around here. You just lose a little bit of momentum, and then these cars, their peak torque is at the very top end of the range. That's why it's such a short jump from 5th gear to 6th gear, because they're trying to stay in that peak torque curve up at the very top of the engine RPM. And when you lose that momentum, you end up losing a good 10 to 20 miles per hour.
Across the front stretch, Stevenson lost a ton of spots just recently. He fell down to 15th as a pack just flew by. So our sportsman champion not enjoying the middle part of this race for sure. We continue to watch the battles in front of him. Roofs giving chase on Hill with Schmeier in P8. Side by side between Hayes and Warling now. Warling going to be able to claim 6. And Scott Corbin in 5th, probably watching his mirrors, knowing that he could be susceptible.
Now, Stevenson ended up clipping the inside curving just a little bit, and that's what ended up slowing him up. That's why he's lost so many positions. But here goes Warling all the way down to the bottom of the track. He's just going to make Scott Corbin look like he was standing still there.
Are options today, that is for sure. We're glad to see that at least passing is possible around this track. Last thing we want is just a line astern procession amongst our drivers. Looks like Espedy's going to take the lead back ahead of Liam Quinn, but Brophy seems to have got a great shot off the corner compared to Christian Challenger, who I think may have washed up that time. It looks like maybe the car got away from him.
Yeah, Christian looking like he's on a little bit of a recovery here, trying to get that thing spooled back up. But when you have one of those washout moments, DJ, how much does it take out of your tires?
It takes a relatively significant amount, because we talked a little bit about, trying to understeer and counter with the steering. What your tires are literally doing is skidding across the surface of the tarmac, and it's just scuffing them to the nth degree. So it definitely takes out, I would say, a lap or two of what you would traditionally be running. So it's going to hurt Challenger here, and it's probably going to hurt him, and I would say 10 to 15 laps near the end of this fuel stint.
See, last time in for this group was 28 laps ago. They still have a ways to go if they stay green before we can expect drivers to duck down in. To the inside of Liam Quinn, Brophy once more than 3rd. He won 2nd place, and he's going to take it. Or will he? Whoa! Whoa! High line is coming in. Liam Quinn as Brophy checks up And now Challenger's got a chance to get back into third.
The Challenger choosing that low line. Let's see whether or not it was the high line for sure, or whether, yep, it absolutely was. Christian Challenger can't get it done. And here comes Warling, and he has to check up massively as Christian Challenger washes up to the outside.
Slaughter's probably furiously scribbling notes now. Anybody who is not witnessing the leaders being told, do not go to the low side. It is not doing anything for those up at the front. So Challenger is all the way back to half a second behind Brophy alone, who is still up with Quinn and Espedy. Could this be the end of the leapfrog games we're watching? We got a car down low. That's Steve Driscoll. Driscoll down to pit lane very, very early. He's 21 laps into this stint. I'm checking to see, maybe he hit the wall or something and we didn't see. This is unexpected.
He did. He hit the wall in the exit of 3 and 4 on the last lap. Just as he, oh, and this was pretty significant contact too.
I cannot believe how badly this is going for Steve Driscoll. Not only is he looking like he'll likely lose the second place in the championship, he's doing so in a pretty miserable fashion. He's going to go multiple laps down now as he takes his spare car and gets it rolling once again. We check it again in on the leaders. Espedy losing out to Quinn, who's going to get underneath them. Oh, and the wake for Brophy is atrocious. He falls back multiple car lengths that time.
Yeah, but look at that. Christian Challenger can't do anything to get past him. And now that top line and bottom line seem to be pretty even at this stage in the race. I think that's going to swap over to that top line being preferred as we start to get further on in this stint. We're looking at probably, DJ, you did some math on how long you think these guys will stay out on this stint.
Yeah, so based off of just some real sketchpad stuff, I think they can go about 40 to 42 laps based off of the cautions they ran. Now, that's for the most of the pack, guys that are really holding back and pushing it. Challenger, we saw, was able to make it work. I think he'll go to 42. But remember this guy on screen, Bob Beltrami. He was able to push 2 laps above everybody else, so he may even be able to get 44 laps out of this stint if he's able to do the same.
Complexion is absolutely changing, so drivers and strategists will need to stay on their toes. Looks like Espedy is going to lead the way and actually chops down in front of his teammate Liam Quinn this time. Brophy looked like he might have had an opportunity, but just cannot stick with those two through the corners unless he can get clean air just like this. He's actually going to go up high, and he's going to take it away, it looks like, potentially from his teammate, Liam Quinn, his pseudo teammate. The 24 falls back to third.
And there, I think we've seen it. I think we've seen that transition point where the top line is definitely going to be the most ideal way to pass. Looks like Liam Quinn's going to give it a shot. He's going to go up there, try and get a run off the corner on Brophy. But I think Brophy, there goes Brophy down to the bottom side. I would have expected him to stay high and force Quinn down low. Let's see whether or not.
Wonder if this is team tactics, maybe? They could be in communication with one another. Wow, look at how quickly they just slide up the track, though, off of turn 4. For those wondering, we've only lost 2 drivers so far this race. Gall and Fletcher are DNFs, still 28 running. Trocine is the last among them.
So these top 4 drivers have absolutely nothing to lose in this race whatsoever. I mean, Liam Quinn, he could lose 5th place in the championship, but I'm not sure that's going to be necessarily weighing on his mind. Travis Warling is the first driver with something to lose, and the only way he's going to lose out is if he ends up wrecking out. But as we've seen, that could just happen with a mistake on the exit of a corner getting into the gray. So these 4 drivers, expect to see them jostling for position like this for the rest of the race.
If they stay up here, could we see someone else come into the fray? Travis Warling has been holding on to the back of this, but he also looks like he does not like the dirty air. Look at them, each picking a lane as they swing through 3 and 4. Challenger all the way to the low line. We're going to ride with Travis Warling as he attempts to run down the top 4.
Yeah, Travis Warling just playing it safe at this point. You can tell that he's not carrying as much speed through the corners as he could here. He's being very comfortable with his speed. He might just be saving some fuel himself at this stage. tucked up this close behind. Wow, look at this. 3 different lines for the leaders. It looks like Brophy was trying to go for the high line, but he's going to be cut off by Espedy, who ends up washing up the track.
Whoa!
Oh, Liam Quinn almost loses it on the bottom side. Whoo, that was close.
Tires are gone, if we can put it lightly. The 24 not only loses the lead, but he falls behind Warling. He is now down to 5th. Espedy up to the lead. Brophy in a second. Challoner into 3rd. We haven't talked about this at all. It's always been fuel talk. Could this become a tire limited race, DJ?
I mean, I think it could, as you see these guys just trying to get everything they can. The more and more they move around this track, the more it's going to take out of their tires. And you heard Mark talking about this a little bit earlier, saying that they're limited to 10 sets, so they've got to be careful in these last 140 laps we have to go. That they've got to keep an eye on that and maybe try to save as many sets of fresh tires for the end. If you remember the last time IndyCar ran here, Marco Andretti made an amazing strategy call to pit with 3 laps to go, was able to catch the field and get all the way up to the podium based off the fact he was able to get fresh tires.
And we should note that the top, it looks like 11 have only taken 2 stops. So at most have only used 2 of those sets. From there on down, it is majority 3 stops for everybody else in the field. Already some variation in strategy happened. Looking at Corbin and Hayes. Corbin down to the low side, and the kinetic machine actually might get an over-under happening.
Quim's into the pits.
Oh, that is Liam Quinn in the 24 that we saw down low, taking an early stop. And this is this is actually scheduled. This looks like about 42 laps since his last one.
All right, DJ, right on the money with that prediction for Liam Quinn. Looks like the rest of the field's going to be able to go around one more time. But Liam Quinn coming in, I mean, you saw him on those tires when they started to go. He's in and into his box cleanly.
Yeah, and I think this could actually advantage him. Everybody's pretty spread out around the track, so he may be able to suck up behind the draft of somebody and not lose too much time. And I genuinely think that for Brophy, Chandler, and Waring, these guys that are just stuck up behind on old tires, that it could slow them down. This could be advantage Quinn.
Maybe he's the guinea pig for the kinetic team. Maybe not, because here comes Espedy. He won't know what kind of data he can get yet. Our leader ducks in. The others stay out. Brophy, Challoner, Warling, continuing on in 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Where did Quinn come out? Quinn is down in 25th. Andy is a lap down currently. Won't get another lap time from him at pace until this next one through.
So if Akasha comes out here, it really hurts the guys who fell down a lap behind. Liam Quinn, Wade Hayes, those guys who have already pitted. Austin Espedy will also fall a lap down because it will benefit the drivers who are currently out on track, I believe. Is that right, DJ?
Yeah, that's right. They'll have to get the wave around, and it will probably put them near the back of the field, depending on whose pits ahead of them. It's why you want to traditionally go for an overcut on ovals, is because of the fear of that yellow. But strategically, you will get a better lap time if you pit earlier.
And indeed, a 32.3 that time by for Liam Quinn. Compare that to Brophy, who still continues on. 32.7, 32.7, 32.7 every lap. 32.8 this time.
But strangely enough, Austin Espedy came out ahead of Liam Quinn, as we have a couple more takers on the pits. It's Aaron Roofs and Lyndon Swaby who are both into the pits. So Liam Quinn, even though he's putting in those faster laps, dealing with the traffic is actually hurting his on-track speed a little bit here, as we continue to see whether or not Jason Brophy is going to come into the pits this time.
Quinn was behind Espedy. Remember, he had that big slip up.
And here he comes. Here comes Jason out of the lead.
Challoner continues. Warling continues. Brophy's down to the line. Corbin follows him. Jeff Schmeier stays out. 47 laps for our top runners that they are still going. Granted, some of those were under caution. Got the call from Challoner. He is indeed pitting this time by.
So Christian Challenger. Let's see whether or not the overcut works for him. He's going to come into the pits. Let's see whether or not he can get it woed up in time. He actually takes a pretty conservative pit lane entry compared to Travis Worling behind him, who gained probably a good second and a half on that entry. So Travis Worling pulling out all the stops there on the pit lane entry. Let's see whether or not it's going to benefit him in track position when he comes out.
By the way, Espedy is flying. His first lap was a 32 flat. And then he hit a 32.4, so he's a little bit slower that time by, but he certainly appears to be the best position to take the lead after this cycle. And indeed, he just got by Brophy on the backstretch. This is Challenger now that we're watching.
Here's Espedy, our highest pitter. There's Challenger coming out right now. That's Travis Worling tucked in behind him. Look at all the time that he gained. And as they come out, here comes those guys that pitted early. Definitely putting an advantage in. As Brophy gets passed by Liam Quinn, as we're watching Challenger come off of the pit lane, he's going to have lost a good 2 to 3 seconds there.
Espedy has got the lead now. Everybody who is yet to pit was nowhere near him, so he cannot be leapfrogged by them. We're waiting for the last of the cars to take their stops, and it might still be a while because they are only on lap 41 to 42 amongst them. These are the drivers that pitted during, I think it was the second caution, the back half of the field.
Yeah, that's right, Joe. These are the guys that came in late, and the leader among them, Bob Beltrami. I did the math a little bit wrong. I had forgotten he had come in on that second round, so look for him to extend. Remember, he was able to go about 40 to 42 laps on full green conditions, so he's clearly got a car that can do some great fuel saving.
Looking at the long run potentially to get him some strategic advantages. The question is, how much longer will he stay out on this one? Kinchlow comes in. Got a few takers. Like Marcus Tracy. Let's head back to who we believe will be our leaders, because Espedy going to be overtaken. Didn't take much for Liam Quinn to try and get back by. Brophy is in with them, but Challenger lost out the worst of the group.
Yeah, those extra couple laps for Challenger means that he's back there 3 seconds behind these guys. As you see Brophy actually back off there to make sure that he doesn't get stuck underneath Liam Quinn when they turn into 1 and 2. So Brophy still playing a patient game, as looks like Bob Beltrami is in from the lead of the race.
Exactly what I saw. The number 14 coming down the lane. He still has some who have gone longer than him. Nick Kuhn, Ryan Steele, Adam Halleck, Justin Morton, Brian Barnes, Wayne Hutchison, all still are yet to pit currently. So we watch the top 3 continue to swap back and forth. So I wonder if some of these guys are already trying to think backwards, trying to do the math so that they've got 1 fewer stop potentially down to the end of the race.
They can try to, Joe, and that is the thing you want to do, obviously. Basically just start counting backwards from 250 by 40 or 38. The problem is that on tracks like this, you're going to get yellows thrown in. So that all works in theory, but in practice, it's going to be a lot harder to actually make work.
Yeah, it's a big gamble for sure. Looks like, has Challenger finally caught up to this group?
No, he's losing time, Joe. He's now 3.5 seconds back, and Travis Worling's starting to swap positions with him, so they might be starting to do a little bit of a slingshot maneuver, Christian Challenger and Travis Worling, to try and make some time. Ryan Steele and Adam Halleck are in from 3rd and 4th from that pit group that has yet to pit. That leaves only 2 drivers out there who have yet to pit, Wayne Hutchison and Jason Wallet.
Hutchison has inherited the lead because of that. He's on lap 42. Wallet on lap 43, actually. And it does look like Jason Wallet is coming in this time as he's going very slow down at the apron. Yes, he is. Hutchison going to make very good mileage on this stint. Espedy is actually about halfway around the track from him right now.
And look at this. Espedy's starting to pull a gap there on Quinn and Brophy. Quinn and Brophy not doing that swap over that Espedy and Quinn were doing, so I think that actually might be hurting their speed, as Espedy's almost pulled a second on these guys, and he's got the drafted David Hall to help pull him forward here, a lapped car. So Espedy's starting to put some commanding space in there, as we see Brophy ducks to the inside of Liam Quinn for second.
This is shaking up the fuel strategy significantly. So Hutchison's the last one to come in. Compare that to Liam Quinn, who's fighting for third with Brophy right now on screen. He is just starting lap 14 on his stint. This is going to allow a little bit of variance and maybe some question marks amongst our drivers.
It certainly is, and now it's going to come down to the timing of the yellows to see if somebody can catch this right. Maybe it's a Swaby, maybe it's a Roofs, any of these guys that came in a few laps earlier. Maybe it's the late stayers that held out. It's going to be interesting to see what they do. We're just going to have to sort of keep counting up to that 38 to 40 mark and see when those laps start ticking.
Looking back at fourth position, Challoner still fending off Warling. 2.5 seconds between himself and the podium position cars. This is not how Challoner wanted this thing to wind up. Now he's going to get overtaken as Warling's to the inside. Challoner falls back to P5.
So the podium position cars have now split up a little bit. They're all about 0.6 to 0.8 of a second separated as we see Warling and Challoner swapping positions again, and this swap is actually helping them catch Quinn. If they can catch up to Quinn and become a pack of 3 and do a little bit more of the swapping, then they might be able to catch up to Brophy, and that might bring them into range of Espedy. But Brophy has just made significant time up to Espedy and might be challenging him for the lead soon.
And Quinn is struggling. Quinn's car does not like these conditions. I just watched him drift all the way up to the wall on the exit of 4. Let's watch the replay on this. In fact, he's being caught by Challoner now. Here, watch this.
Oh.
Big lift. Big lift. That car is unfortunately a handful in the nighttime, it seems.
Take a look at this. Jason Brophy right on the back of Espedy, and they've got some lap cars ahead of them. Brophy and Espedy, the yellow and blue machines right there on your screen. Brophy looking for an opportunity to get by. He's going to try that outside lane again, and look at the speed he's carrying up there. Fantastic job carrying that speed out. Now he's got the draft to David Hall. He's just going to slingshot right by Espedy.
Wow. The 372 is on fire here at the midway point. We passed halfway at 125 laps, and certainly looks the best positioned now that we've got the conditions that we expect to see for the remainder of the race. The sun is down, the lights are on. The track will continue to rubber in, so that could evolve. But Jason Brophy, who has been hanging around the front, is looking a lot stronger, a lot more stable than those around him. But
contact on the front straightaway. But we've had a car off. I believe that was Adam Halleck.
Caution. Oh, he got hit. That was Brian Barnes. Barnes just clipped him. So how did this one start for Halleck?
It started with a block. This was a block from Lynn Kinchlow on the front straightaway. We're going to see it right here. Adam Halleck gets forced down to the apron and ends up losing control.
Very late move from Kinchlow, and just, looks like the transition from the apron into the banking on the front stretch. And there you could see that was Barnes clipping him, unfortunately, as he tried to take evasive maneuvers. And some info there from Halleck saying fighting hard for 14th place. So I guess he's a little bit unamused by that one. This is the view from Barnes.
Goodness.
Ow. I mean, that car was a speck up ahead. How do you even... There's so little time for him to react on that one. Cars are already on pit lane for stops. Brophy is going to lead them in. What kind of changes, you talked about the Rick Mears method, DJ Clark. What kind of changes can Liam Quinn do to get this car back to him?
he can add a little bit more downforce to the wings. That's really all that iRacing is going to allow him to do in this pit stop. But even with that said, that can be a difference maker. Based off what his car is doing, I think a little bit more rear downforce is going to help. That'll really help to get the car to turn better off the corner.
Remember, we had some late takers for the pit stops. Nick Kuhn and Wayne Hutchison among them. They have both stayed out. Kuhn will inherit the lead, but we have not seen him up at the front of this field for, I think, pretty much the entire race. He started 18th. He's been hovering around the mid-pack. What can he do now that he's got clean air? Will that change the game for him?
It's going to be hard for Nick Kuhn and Wayne Hutchison to capitalize on this, considering that their tires are 10 and 7 laps old, respectively. About 8 and 5 laps old on green flag running. But that's enough of a difference in tire life to make a huge difference in lap time and maneuverability, isn't it, DJ?
Very much so. What they're not going to be able to do is, as you see, I think that's looks like it's Kuhn diving into the pits there.
Oh, that's Trojan and Driscoll, it looks like.
Oh, that's my bad. Those are lap guys. But what it prevents you from doing is really positioning the car through the corner. They'll be able to get down and take a relatively easy line, especially through clean air. But once they get into the corner, they're not going to be able to do those sort of cut underneath maneuvers going high to low to really get a pass done or to get some good defensive driving done.
For Driscoll, he could have gotten that lap back and was not going to get the wave round. They don't have a lucky dog since this is IndyCar rules that they are playing. Lights are out on the pace car. We're going to get restarted with some new players. And this could be a bit chaotic. It could be business as usual. We'll find out soon enough. Still 28 cars running. Or is Adam Halleck? Is he out of fast repairs here? Because he's still on the lane.
He also might have forgot to check it once again when he came out of the pits. There is an option that you can switch in iRacing to make sure it doesn't check that when you leave the pits, because sometimes that can lead you into a mistake where you forget to turn it off if you're going to do a normal pit stop. But if he forgot to turn it on before he took his tow, then that means that he would still be in the pits. But I'll have to check to see whether or not he's taken that spare car at any other point.
All right, restart for Nick Kuhn. What kind of nerves is he feeling up there on the high side? Waiting for the pace car to peel in. There goes the Mustang pace car. And he accelerates away. Quite a gap between himself and Hutchison in second place. He left a big heap of space between himself and the top car. I'm not sure if that was intentional, but Jason Brophy now starting to pick up speed. A very calm restart. Challenger's liking this. He's already on top of Liam Quinn and could take fifth place rather.
Yeah, very measured restart throughout the field. Christian Challenger actually backs out of the move as they go into 3 and 4. Brophy up a good lane higher as they go through the corner. Brophy's actually going to cross over Wayne Hutchison here and try and cross in underneath Nick Kuhn as well. How deep is he going to go? He's going to switch up Nick Kuhn and go on the outside. There's those fresh tires talking.
High side that seems to have been more valuable before the last caution. And Brophy with the fresh rubber has got a little bit of momentum, but not track position. Kuhn continues to hold the shorter line down at the bottom, and swinging in behind them, it is Liam Quinn, who must like this car much better now on new tires. He has to jolt up to the high side. He's looking for a 3-wide fight for the lead down into turn 1. Does Quinn have anything in that car to try and take it away? No, he falls back as Brophy finally gets a nose ahead for the first time, and he is our new leader.
And here comes Christian Challenger up the outside as well. He slots in third in line on the outside. Kuhn just cannot hang on to that car on the bottom lane. Christian Challenger's going to back out of it a little bit. Austin Espedy, sneaks right by Kuhn, who's having to scrub those tires to keep out of these faster guys. And look at that, Liam Quinn up to the lead once again in this race. He definitely made some adjustments in that pit stop, and now he's flying.
The short run, Quinn's car looks magnificent. He's up to the front. I'm sure he's going to try and get this away from those behind if he can. That's a big if, because here comes Brophy. The 3.72 just breezes by into the lead.
Absolutely fantastic stuff from these leaders out front for sure. They're all racing very hard, and we have contact. Mark Stevenson's around in the back of the field as well. Almost around, I should say. He went 3 wide on the exit of 3 and 4, and he's now recovered, but that was almost a gigantic wreck with a lot of our runners in the back of the field.
I mean, Torres and McGreevy, it almost looked like he made contact with both at one point. Watch this. And once we get the offboard, we need an onboard for this save. Stevenson making it look smooth here. Watch this. Oh, love it. Love it. Helmet cam. 80 or 53.
How hard is a move like that to pull off, DJ?
You know, it's not too difficult if you're driving on dirt, but in an IndyCar, that's one of the hardest things to do in the world. That is genuinely one of the most impressive moves I have seen this race.
Lead. Liam Quinn fighting with Brophy. Espedy in there. Challenger back in the hunt after falling behind. Somewhat stopping the bleeding, we should point out Nick Kuhn is side by side with Worling behind them. There you can see on screen. So even though he got dropped by the leaders, he's holding his own now that he is up in the front.
And holding his own is being a little bit generous. He's still falling back, but as these tires start to wear for everybody, he'll start to more or less even out with all these drivers as Liam Quinn and Jason Brophy continue to swap positions. Austin Espedy looking on. Christian Challenger, I'm sure his mind's ticking back and forth as he's trying to figure out how he's going to make the pass for the win on this race, as we are starting the 142nd lap for these drivers for sure, and we're watching as this lead pack just has so much trouble passing each other.
Yeah, he's looking for win number 12, taking the lion's share of victories this season and moving himself into the most winningest driver in the majors history. Almost Hamilton-esque for our multi-time champion. Coming off the corner, Quinn stalking Brophy. He's going to take it right back. Yep, he's going to duck to the inside. Brophy doesn't defend. Takes it outside, and the kinetic car, number 24, back up to the top spot.
Here comes Austin Espedy looking on the back of Christian Challenger once again as Brophy and Quinn continue their swapperoo. Espedy just struggling a little bit since that restart. He was very quick on the green flag pit stops, very quick on the restart as well, but just has not been able to maintain the positions that he's been gaining. Christian Challenger just holding on to that third position as he ducks up in front of Austin just a little bit, gets him a little, having to slow up through the corner just a tiny bit as well. Travis Worling looking onto the back of these guys in fifth.
And up at the front, Brophy going to get back in front of Quinn. Challenger with Espedy looking around his high side, and Worling now. Worling pulls up to the gearbox of Espedy. The plot thickens.
Based upon the math, I think Worling still is assuming that he's going to have to win this race. So he's definitely trying to get himself up there into the battle for these lead positions. And he's looking at the back of Austin Espedy trying to figure out his way by. As we see Christian Challenger taking a high line through the corner. Espedy's going to try and power it out on the bottom, but he just can't carry the exit speed as effectively as Challenger can carry the high speed, so he has to duck back in line behind Christian.
For reference, where Worling sits right now, fifth place, awards 390 points. So it's 120 some less than that Driscoll needs to score. I'm pretty sure that 24th is more than that behind. We've got Brophy giving the lead back to Quinn. Doesn't look, is it just me or is Challenger falling away?
Challenger is falling away a little bit, and he might be trying to save his stuff here. He also might realize that those guys, I mean, when they do that swap maneuver, they do go a decent amount faster than you when you're just riding around solo, especially if they can do it in a way that doesn't affect their tire wear. Oh, here we go with Austin looking to the bottom of Christian. Travis Warling looking on.
Underneath, and the 77 going to easily slide into third place. Getting back out of turn 4. Challenger pulling the over-under, using that extra momentum. Maybe they're starting to work together. Maybe these two, seeing if they could try and run down the top 2, knowing there's no use in losing out too badly here. Oh, but Challenger down low does not like that. Bottom line, the car washed up.
And here comes Aaron Roos, who's going to look to the bottom of Travis Warling. Roos just dives it deep into the corner. He's going to wash up there in front of Warling. Warling's just going to be able to swap him over, but he actually can't because he's running out of front tires to turn in with. So all these drivers are struggling with front end grip at this point, trying to make these moves work. Christian Challenger to the bottom of SPD again.
And how about Aaron Roos back in the mix of things, starting from 23rd on the grid. Now currently sitting in 5th. Going to make that 6 as Warling is by. But this has been quite a run for the 4-2-6. Maybe not the greatest to qualifying pace compared to others, but certainly seems to have the strategy and the race pace to get up here. This is legitimate. He was not among those such as Nick Kuhn, who stayed out on the last run. Speaking of which, Nick Kuhn, for those wondering, is currently P8.
Look at this. Roos just powering it around the outside of Travis Warling. Travis having to back off a little bit and let Roos through. So Roos definitely using the experience of racing around here for the last 148 laps to putting it to good use. He really dove it down deep underneath Christian. Has to back off of that. Travis is going to have a good opportunity to come back at him now.
Is certainly on fire, and I think if he times that right, he could get by Challenger. Meanwhile, up at the front, Brophy side by side with Quinn as well. You can see that in the corner of the screen there, flashing by. Down on the low line, that's Brophy in the yellow and black. Quinn and the kinetic blue machine. Brophy going to take it away.
And DJ, you've done some math about how long these guys have to go on fuel for their stints if we stay green here.
Yeah, so roughly thereabouts, they're going to have to do 40 lap stints if we stay green from here on out. I think you can get away with 139 lap stint. It's going to be interesting to see where they decide to do it. But as of right now, based off what I've been seeing, that's what they've got to do, 40 laps. So the next stint to look for these guys to come in is going to be about lap 171.
Another run on our leader, Quinn, back to the bottom side. 99 laps left to go, less than 200 miles in this race. We've lost one more, it sounds like, Adam, and unfortunately this one, it was a little bit out of Swaby's hands.
Yeah, it looks like Lyndon Swaby is just having some connection issues, couldn't resolve it, so he's dropped out, unfortunately. So that's 3 cars out right now. Rob Gall, William Fletcher, and latest Lyndon Swaby.
Adam Halleck is not among those. He's gotten back out on track. He's running in 26, second to last car in the field currently, and certainly off the pace. His last few laps, 32.8, 32.8. As the drivers continue to swap up at the front, this has become very, very normal for them. So nothing really too out of line amongst our top 2. Espedy ahead of Challenger. Challenger down to 4th now. Roofs, who was at one point charging hard, is in 5th and falling away from Christian.
I'd like to give an update on Andrew Waring, our driver who started in the 3rd position. He's currently now down in 14th. He's recovered quite significantly from his woes early on. He was at one point a lap down in this race and is currently in the middle of the pack, running about 2 seconds behind Wade Hayes with Brian McGreevy, a teammate for company. So a good recovery from Andrew Waring. He's probably hoping for another couple of cautions to continue to get that thing right, as it still looks wicked loose off of the corners.
Last thing you want to track as fast as this is a loose car, I imagine, especially coming off the turns, where you want to carry that momentum. And the number 336 right now with McGreevy just behind him, his teammate. Let's go up 8th position. We're following Nick Kuhn, currently on a little bit of an alternate strategy, but probably wants a caution here to even it out amongst those with him. He's being chased by the other one that stayed out, Wayne Hutchison, and then it's Josh Schmeier, who is in 10th, seeing if he can demote them.
Yeah, Josh Schmeier seems to be actually struggling a little bit with his setup. He's not carrying as much speed through the corners, and part of that's due to his fuel conservation, staying in 6th gear through the corners. He just has to back off more than the rest of these guys. So Schmeier struggling a little bit, but look at this. Wayne Hutchison challenging Nick Kuhn a little bit, looking for that bottom lane. He ducks back in line to try and get a little bit more draft, and he's going to look for the bottom side.
Back position. And through turn 1. That bottom side at times doesn't always pay off. This time it does. He keeps it ahead of Nick Kuhn, and he is going to claim that P8. So, well past the halfway point. Oh, and Nick Kuhn's going to try and challenge him back once again. 4th car back. That's actually Kevin Hill in the number 52. Driver who qualified very well. He was in 5th, but he's sitting down in 11th, and we haven't really seen a whole lot of him ever since the start.
Yeah, that comes down to a little bit of pit lane strategy that ended up not going his way. So unfortunately, Kevin Hill just hanging on to the back of the top 10 at this point in the race, just trying to get up there and challenge these guys. He's got a quick car. The trouble is when he gets into traffic, he doesn't seem to really know where to put it to try and keep that car from pushing out too much. He's able to get a pretty decent line right there, but as we go up and look at Jason Brophy and Liam Quinn, they continue to swap positions here.
I expect that this is a little bit more of a dance between these two. Espedy, who is with them, is looking in the mirrors and seeing the 37 Challenger get smaller and smaller. It's up to 7/10 between themselves and the current champion. This is, again, hard to read sometimes with Christian if he's intentionally letting them go, or is this genuine? Is this car dropping pace?
Well, I don't think Espedy's going to leave it for very long thinking about it, because he's trying to challenge Jason Brophy for that 2nd position now.
30 laps into this stint among these cars, and for Kuhn and Hutchison, it is 36 laps in. So I think we said probably about lap 42 because of the pace laps that they had. So they've not got too much longer before they need to duck down to the lane. And that is going to hurt if it's under green, because that makes them incredibly susceptible to a caution, costing them a lap or two. Top 3, boy, a lot of time cost for Espedy, who washed out heavily off of turn 4.
Yeah, fortunately for Espedy, he's still within the draft of these guys in the top 3, but Christian Challenger is dropping back even more. He's now 8/10 behind, and Travis Warling is a good 2.5 behind Christian Challenger. So looks like some of these guys at the front. Oh my goodness, look at this run from Austin Espedy on the low side as he comes off of 3 and 4. That was a very decisive move there. He just stuck it to the bottom and is going to power straight past Jason Brophy.
That'll give him 2nd place. You know, I had a thought, and I'm wondering if it's a valid strategy, is drifting up and denying him a chance to use his momentum. Espedy gets in front of Brophy. DJ, is it worth it to drop back, kind of like we see in F1 sometimes, and preserve the tires? Could Christian maybe be thinking long term and just giving himself some breathing space?
He may be, but honestly, the just level of atrophy that you have when you're going on this kind of banking with these tires, it doesn't end up saving you enough. You're not able to get the full bite you can, and really I think the best strategy is to be super aggressive for the first 10 or so laps of tire life, and then just make do what you can.
Ooh, Andrew Warren is in, the first of our takers. I think this is scheduled. I think this is an expected fuel stop for him. Hutchison stays out to start lap 40 of his stint.
Nick Kuhn is also into the pit lane. Wade Hayes came into the pits a lap before Andrew Waring, so we have 3 guys who had to pit. They were on alternate strategy here, so each one of them in a different strategy scenario. We're 33 laps into the stint for most of these drivers. Wayne Hutchison, like you said, on lap 40 of his stint, so he's got some time. He's only got a couple laps before he can come in.
He does, and for Kuhn here and everybody else that's going to be coming in now, they're going to need a little bit of help from yellow to make it to the end. I think if they get one more caution where they're able to recycle back, they should be good to go. But as of now, they're going to need an extra stop compared to everybody else who's on the main pit strategy.
I'm keeping an eye on Hutchison to see if he comes in this time. It'll be lap 42. He ducks down low. He doesn't seem to be dropping pace, so I think Hutchison going to stay out one more time.
Yeah,
Brophy and Indy are going to swap spots for second. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Joe, all these drivers, these guys who have just pit are going to be hoping that the caution comes out now, because in that scenario, then all the drivers ahead of them would pit and they would be able to get the wave around. If these guys start to do their own scheduled pit stops, then one of them could...
Sorry. Did we miss something with Brophy and Espedy? Because they've fallen away from Quinn significantly, and Challenger was actually up underneath them for a moment.
Yes, absolutely. We didn't miss it. It was actually on screen. It was when you mentioned that Austin Espedy got in front of Brophy and cut off his momentum. That was, well, I mean, it didn't seem like that big of a moment on screen, but that is the kind of moment that can separate these drivers by a second, because both of them had to lift, and they lost a good 20 miles per hour on the straightaway due to that. And so that's what made the difference here. So Brophy and Espedy just trying to play catch up at this point from what we saw happen about 2.5 minutes ago.
Hutchison finally came in, took his service, and he is back moving, leaving us with only 19 cars left on the lead lap, pretty much all on the same pit strategy. Caution at this point would be horrendous for Kuhn and Hutchison.
Oh, Lynn Kinchlow spun out on his way into the pits.
Oh, goodness. Commentator's curse still withstanding. Lynn can't get it going straight. He's nearly spun it again, getting the car moving. No caution, though. He was off the racing line.
Looks like Brophy and Espedy have decided that they're not going to really play nice with each other and try and catch up to Quinn, because Quinn has pulled out yet another 3/10 on these guys. So Brophy and Espedy now vying for position.
Still a few more laps before they need to come in. Question is, how much fuel has Quinn been using, especially because we saw him come in a little bit earlier last time. Now, granted, the card looks okay, because we did see at the end of the stint previously that it seemed to wash out heavily.
Well, I mean, he's out there leading, and that seems to be where the car is the strongest for sure. He pulls another 2/10 on the guys behind him on this lap alone, so Quinn seems to be happy. I think this might be the stint where he decides to go long if he can. And all that being said, I think we could even say that Quinn might be able to seal the deal for most laps led in this race, and here he comes into the pits.
Oh, there goes that. He's one of the first in the front group to come in and pit. Espedy stays out. He will lead from here. Aaron Roofs also comes into the lane. Not seeing anybody else come in besides those two on this lap so far. There's one. Looks to be Brian Barnes also in from the lead lap.
All right, DJ, you're Liam Quinn. You're hitting your box now. You're about to come out back onto the track as Jason Brophy comes into the pit lane, leaving Espedy and Challenger and Warling going by. You're Liam Quinn, DJ, and you're thinking to yourself, I want to win this race. Are you hoping that a caution comes out shortly, or are you hoping that everything keeps going green for the rest of the race here?
Well, he had a little bit of a squiggle coming out there, so I think that may cost him just a hair. I'm frankly going to be hoping, though, that we stay green to the end. We've seen what happens at these restarts, that they are utterly unpredictable and no lead is safe. So I think Liam Quinn's going to be hoping for a green flag run to the end.
Espedy is in now. Challoner stays out. Warling stays out. Corbin is in. He's joined by Jeff Schmeier. Kevin Hill going to get down to pit lane speed down behind them. McGreevy as well.
Ryan Steele goes by pit lane. We haven't talked about him much. Justin Morton, we've talked about him a couple times. Justin's had some issues with clipping the inside apron a couple of times. So Christian Challoner into the box now, and I believe Travis Warling will be following him in.
Quinn just retook the lead of those who have pitted from Brophy. Challoner and Warling in, so that will promote them back up to the front, but they are not the leaders yet. There's the lap comparison, or the pit comparison between Espedy and Quinn.
Espedy going to have lost about a second to Brophy and Quinn. Brophy actually gained a lot on that pit cycle to Quinn. Remember that when he came into the pit lane, Quinn was still a second up ahead, and now Brophy going for the pass for the lead here.
Ooh, long stop for both Challoner and I believe Morton, 10 seconds for each of them. Quinn also had a long one, 10.4 for him.
Brophy in 9 seconds, so I mean it's in the ballpark. You're thrown off a little bit from Ryan Steele, who on his last pit stop under caution was only about 5 seconds. But it looks like 9 to 10 seconds seems to be the average around here.
Steele finally comes in, so Brophy re-inherits the lead as he puts a lap on Torres, who is down low underneath him in the white and yellow and blue machine. Certainly putting these cars a little bit offline, as Quinn's going to have to go around on the high side and starts to lose a little bit. Boy, the lap traffic is really mixing things up now, though, because Espedy's not too far back, but he's got a lot of cars to try and weave through, some of which are exactly where he wants to be, and this is allowing Christian Challoner to try and get by Espedy. Are they going to try and go 4 wide? There's not much room in there. Both of these are lapped cars. That is Torres and McGreevy. Torres is going to back out of it. Brian McGreevy does not, though. Oh, he's washing up. He's washing up. Challoner. I thought he was going to have a big moment there.
Challoner covering up the inside, but that's where McGreevy's going to be. So Challoner's going to have to walk up to the high side again. But then he tries to swap over McGreevy here. Remember, McGreevy also just having pits. All these guys are just out there on raw pace. And remember, blue flags are only advisory in the major series. They are not something you have to abide by when it comes to rules.
You just cannot impede the driver behind intentionally. Just they have to make their own way past. So Challoner up to third now, taking advantage of that situation, demoting Espedy to P4.
And they're right up there underneath the leaders, Joe.
I'd say that Brophy, Quinn, Challoner, and Espedy are honestly our major players left at this point to vie for the win. Now, a caution could change that, but from what we've seen, these 4 have generally been leading the race.
There goes Espedy past Challoner once again. Challoner's going to try and do the swap over here. And actually, Liam Quinn and Brophy are holding themselves up a little bit. Challoner's going to have a head of steam as he goes into 3 and 4.
He's pulling from Brophy, who's down on the low side, but he's trying to hold it on that white line. The car pinched a little bit. That compromises his speed. The 5th car back there, that's McGreevy. That's a lapped car, so that's not for position. It's these main 4 going 2 by 2 down into turn 1 that you want to watch.
They just came into the pits for their tires, and they got a fresh set. They're trying to go for another 40 laps. DJ, if you're their crew chief, are you telling them to try and get single file once again, try and stop burning up their tires here?
Well, I think they can go too wide if you're on the outside. That's not going to burn them up as much, but for Challoner and Brophy here diving down to the inside time and time again, that's just going to tear up those tires. And for as rough as we've seen Challoner be late in stints, I've got to think he wants to get off of that white line and move up the track.
Ooh, That looked a little scary too this time by Challoner, losing a lot of momentum to Espedy. Down low, Liam Quinn underneath Brophy. Back up to the top spot one more time. And another car is joining them, but that is another lapped car, Andrew Waring, who's actually heading into pit lane now, and definitely was speeding into pit lane because that was a very late call from him. So that will make his day go all the worse. Meanwhile, our leaders coming through next time, which hopefully should be their last stop. That will be what, lap 212 or 208, I think, actually.
Yeah, I'm not about to jump on the doing math train on broadcast, but look at this. Liam Quinn stuck on the low side. He almost washed up into Austin Espedy as Espedy goes around that high side, gets that pass done. Espedy's experience in these Indy cars is really shining out here, especially early on in these runs. Later on, it seems like he spends his stuff a little bit too early, but early on in these runs, he seems to know exactly where to put this car to make passes work.
For our viewers who are just tuning in, there's storylines for each of these drivers. Brophy, who of course has jumped in and is basically just looking for single race glory here, ahead of Espedy in second, who is one of the IndyCar masters here on iRacing. He wants to show what he can do in one of the top tier series in the entirety of the service in these cars. Christian Challoner, who wants to continue to extend his gap over everybody else in terms of race wins and just stack up incredible points this season, wants to show his domination at every turn. And then Liam Quinn, another of the IndyCar Masters, who has yet to take his first victory of the season, wants to end that spell before this is over.
And Liam Quinn looks like those woes that we saw in the stint, the stint before the one that we just saw. When he was in behind people, it's coming back once again. So I think he's really starting to deal with a lack of front-end downforce, or a lack of downforce in general when he's in traffic. And he got up in behind Christian Challoner, followed him through a corner, and almost washed out. As we see Austin Espedy, he's out in the gray already. Christian Challoner's just going to sling right by him. Espedy losing a bunch of time and a bunch of momentum there.
The other thing I'm seeing here, DJ, is that a lot of these lapped cars look like they're getting up out into the gray. I feel like this is a big danger for those caution flags, that if somebody maybe is a little too polite, maybe we could have a yellow throw things out of whack.
It very well could happen, Joe. These guys, you get up into that gray, you're slipping and sliding on marbles, you've got absolutely no grip up there. The only way you can hope to control it is by just feathering the throttle and keeping it there. I hate to say it, but at this point, with as clean as we've seen everybody running, I think that is most likely the way we'll see a caution here on these last couple of laps, hopefully. But we'll have to wait and see.
And off the corner, that was Retro Scene up to the high side, getting lapped by Espedy, who we are on board with right now. Staying in fifth gear, curiously.
I just don't think he's close enough behind the other guys to get out of fifth gear. Notice he's not hitting the blue. There he hits the blue as he crosses the line. I mean, I wouldn't question Austin Espedy when it comes to gear selection at a super speedway with an Indy car at all. Espedy definitely knows his stuff when it comes to that. Now, we were talking about how our caution may come from somebody getting to the outside as a lap car, but it actually may come from the battle from 13th position, as these guys are actually getting pretty heated down there. This is once again Mark Stevenson, our sportsman car champion, and David Hall and Justin Morton, who are all tucked in with one another, and that's Andrew Waring in the UDOX machine trying to go around the outside of them on fresh tires.
And it's worth noting that we're starting to get some chatter on the radio as drivers are losing their tempers. They're not really supposed to be chatting about and complaining to one another. That is against the majors rules. I expect, with it being this far into the race, some drivers will have the red mist.
And unbelievably, Jason Brophy's lead has leapt up to 1.5 seconds over Austin Espedy. Christian Challoner just now affecting a pass on Espedy on that bottom side. Ooh. So look at, and that's right in behind this battle that we're talking about. That's between Yeah, so that's Jason Brophy up there in that yellow machine up ahead of these guys. Christian Challenger trying to get by Austin S, but he can't quite do it. But Jason Brophy is out to the biggest lead that we've seen in this race so far.
He was able to get his way past Wallet and Halleck now. So he is clear, and he's got lapped cars as a buffer between himself and second place. Exactly what he wants. It didn't work on the low side last time, so Challenger says, let's try the other way. Up on the high side, and we saw this earlier in the race that the high side tended to come in. It looked even with the bottom lane that time through, but a lift on the backstretch from Espedy seems to signal that he's not willing to try and fight that too long.
And Liam Quinn's woes are definitely affecting him. He's back of these guys by about a second and won't be able to gain on them at all from how far back he is. So Espedy and Challenger, I think Challenger's going to try and close the gap up to Brophy, but that's out to 1.7 seconds. So they're going to have to wait for the end of this stint and hope that they could find something in the next stint or hope for a caution. Otherwise, Brophy, unless he makes a mistake or gets caught up by traffic, he's doing a great job right now.
He's keeping himself incredibly safe up there. Heading back down to Stevenson, who we were looking at before. David Hall still on his rear. Justin Morton is in that group. One of the more versatile drivers we've seen here on the iRacing service. Kevin Hill is back there along with Ryan Steele. Oh, and we've got, Wade Hayes is into the wall.
He was trying to enter pit lane.
I was just going to say, was this intentional or what? Yeah, you're right.
Absolutely. He's now Austin Powers did, unfortunately, in the pit lane. So there we see him coming off the lane. He just outbrakes himself coming in.
Well, DJ, you mentioned it. You're doing high speeds and then trying to brake, probably on very cold brakes too, down to very, very low speeds.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why sometimes you'll see guys dive down to the low side if they are sort of in a comfortable gap. They'll actually pump the brakes a little bit to just try to get some heat in them. And a lot of times these guys will run very front forward brake bias to try to just stop as quickly as possible. But just come in at those high speeds with that angle, you can still get that back end to catch and go around. And that's exactly what happened to him.
Battle continues here between Nick Kuhn and Wayne Hutchison, the only two on their pit strategy. Lap 27, actually slightly separated now. Hutchison came in 3 laps earlier than Kuhn, remember. So 27 laps in for Hutchison, 30 laps in for Nick Kuhn. Kuhn is the most vulnerable to not making it to the end of this race without an extra stop.
And DJ, according to your calculations, both of these guys would need an extra stop or another caution in order to get this to work. Do you think one caution would do it, or are they going to need multiple?
I think they're going to need multiple. They're going to be about 10 laps short as of now, 10 to 12 laps short, and getting a caution. We've seen normally cautions running 3 laps, so it's only going to get worse for them. They're not going to be able to do it on one. They're going to need multiple yellow flag laps.
Side by side, whoa, and Espedy way high up into the marbles through 1 and 2 for some reason, and falls back immediately from Christian Challenger. 2.4 seconds from this pair up to Jason Brophy, who continues to streak away late in the race. If he was saving his stuff for later, I'd say that the 372 has finally decided to show his cards.
Yeah, I think Christian Challenger had a pretty decent setup for when the sun was beating down on the track. And even though the track temperature hasn't changed that much, the way that iRacing is running their track their track calculations when it comes to how that temperature is affected across the track, it does change the behavior of the surface when the sun goes down because the heat is emanating from a different place, more or less. And so I think what you're seeing is Christian Challenger's just struggling on long run pace now that the sun has gone down and we're onto the lights.
Back around him, Espedy went the long way to claim P2 once again. Just getting ready to kick off lap 200 now among our drivers. 400 miles down, 100 to go. and the complexion is changing completely. Whereas before, it was the same 4 or 5 drivers who were up at the front. Suddenly, Jason Brophy is the man to beat, and we're going to swap around again for P2 between Challoner and Espedy.
Yeah, but all of this is in vain, unfortunately, because Brophy, up to that 3-second gap, and Challoner and Espedy had this traffic to deal with. Challoner almost washing wide up into Espedy. I mean, these two guys have kind of got to be kicking themselves, thinking, man, would you just stay behind me, or would you just slingshot past me? Can we work together to get up there? Because they're seeing Brophy just take off into the distance. I mean, Brophy just gained half of a second just on turns 3 and 4 alone.
I wonder if we could see a comparison between either Espedy and Challoner, or one of them and Brophy, just to get a sense of what the last 5 laps have been like between these 3 here, because that'll really tell the tale. The clock does not lie. Espedy, yeah, you're right. Look at that. Many of these laps, half a second slower, which is dramatically bad in terms of oval racing.
Especially considering the fact that they're both on the same strategy. And is that just the fact that both of them have spent their tires more than Brophy, DJ?
I think that's certainly a part of it. I also think as Brophy came into the pits, he may have taken a little bit of wing out of the front of that car to really just dial it into running out front. He knew he had the chance to do it and knew to capitalize.
Okay, I think we're getting close for Nick Kuhn needing to come in. He's on lap 37. We're expecting maybe about 5 more laps. That'll put him right on the cusp. He'd have to fuel save for sure. He'd have to find a buddy to slipstream with. Right now, actually, Kuhn does. Well, he did. He had a lapped car that he decided to go by. That was Torres.
Yeah, Nick Kuhn down in 8th. Wayne Hutchinson's actually pulling away from Kuhn at this point. Jeff Schmeier tucked in behind Nick. As we continue to watch Jason Brophy tick down the laps in that lead, still climbing by a couple tenths of a second per lap, almost up to 4 seconds now for Brophy.
We still have 18 cars left on the lead lap. Brian Barnes is the last of them, with Brophy chasing and not too far behind to be able to put him down one. We have 26 runners. Andrew Waring has called it a day, and Brett Trocine is the last one on track. Now, you mentioned Wayne Hutchison. He's actually in front of Lynn Kinchlow as well as Nick Kuhn. And Schmeier in there as well. With 3 more laps of fuel than Kuhn had, Hutchison, I think, is actually pretty safe here.
Yeah, Hutchison's doing a good job. Schmeier and Corbin are both on different strategies than him. So Wayne Hutchison is going to have to come in the next 5 laps, and then he would have to do 46 lap stint, if my math is correct, to get to the end of the race. It's not impossible, but it's improbable. The only person that we've seen do something that big is Bob the Salami Beltrami, who's who's about 8 seconds behind these guys. But I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility, but it's gonna be a tough ask.
No, I think it's fewer than that. Kuhn is on 41. We're on lap 206. If he hits 210, well, it probably won't hit 210. Then that would be 40 laps to go. Let's see if he comes in this time. We've seen 43 laps done under green. We've been green this whole time. Oh, but he's coming in. He's coming in on 41 of the stint, which means he's going to have to stretch it to about 42 to 43 laps on this last stint, unless he gets a caution, which means he is going to be basically hampered this entire stint.
Yeah, how much slower is that going to put him at, DJ, if he's having to lift and coast a little bit to save that extra lap or 2 of fuel?
I mean, it could potentially put him down anywhere from 2 to 3 tenths a lap. Speed obviously being the king here. So It's a bold strategy, but he's going to be able to make it work if he gets a yellow. If he doesn't, I think he's going to fall down out of the top 10 potentially.
Next up, we wait for Wayne Hutchison to come in. He's on lap 40. Still should have one more lap to go to match Kuhn. And he is well within the window if that's the case. No, he's coming in now. Hutchison also going to cut it rather close.
Yeah, this is an interesting decision for sure from Hutchison to come in this early. He's definitely hoping for a caution. We're still 5 to 12 laps out from everyone else's pit stops. So, and even if that's the case, we'll see both Wayne and we'll see Wayne Hutchison have the same, and Nick Kuhn have the same problem that they had on the last restart, where they just didn't have the tires to stay up there in the lead. So, yeah, this is going to be a tough one for these guys.
Let's check back in on second place. Remember how close Espedy and Challoner were before? Well, Espedy suddenly has pushed Challoner back. This is similar to what we saw earlier in the race. I still get the feeling that Challoner's problem seems to be late on. Dirty air makes it impossible for him to get close to anybody.
I mean, same with Liam Quinn, who's now almost 4 seconds back of Christian Challoner. Remember, he was leading the race during the last stint. Jason Brophy still out to 3 seconds over Austin Espedy, but Espedy has been able to claw that back by about half of a second to 0.8 of a second. So Espedy definitely showing that he's still got pace in that car right now.
Should be seeing a couple cars come in here soon. I see Brian Barnes starting lap 40 of his stint. Roofs is among those as well. And he's sitting in 6th place. He should be the one on the lead lap. No, it's going to be Liam Quinn, the first one that blinks, which has been the pattern we've seen all race long.
I mean, it worked out for him the last couple times. We'll see whether it works out for him again and see whether or not he makes any sort of adjustments to help that thing turn a little bit more in dirty air, because you can't be assured that you're going to be in clean air towards the end of this race, especially if we get cautions. Scott Corbin and Aaron Roofs are falling in behind him.
The good news is 38 laps. He shouldn't have to really fuel save. He could easily make that to the end as he brings it right down to his stall, locking them up. So getting everything out of that car. Roofs is done with his pit stop. So is Quinn.
Brophy's in from the lead.
Ooh.
And I can also report that Liam Quinn actually had some right side pod damage. So that might have been what was affecting his pace as well during that last stint.
Did he take a free repair or did
Yes, he did. He took his fast repair during that stop.
Ah, that explains some things. Espedy comes in as Challoner once again remains the last driver out. So everybody really following exactly what they've been doing all race long. Brophy back onto the track. So where is Quinn? Oh, Quinn is definitely too far away to challenge him.
Yeah, Quinn a good 8 seconds back. He'll be about 7. He'll stay about 8 seconds back as Brophy gets back out on track. Quinn's lost that advantage that he once had, but once again, if we get a caution, all this is erased.
And Warling pitted. Ryan Steele stays out as Christian Challoner is now in.
So
David
really,
Hall stayed out a long time. He's on lap 41 right now.
so the interesting thing is going to be between Espedy and Challoner, and also Espedy, Challoner, and Brophy. I can report that Brophy is definitely out ahead of Espedy by about 2.5 seconds, so that gap has maintained the same. But what's the difference going to be between Challoner and Espedy?
I'm also curious, DJ, if some of these drivers who are able to go long, they can put a little bit less fuel in, I would assume. Is that enough that should gain them a position or two?
If they're locked in a tight battle of under a second on track, yes, it can. But the big ones, not so much. And you see it working out on your screen right in front of you as Challoner has been able to get up around in front of Espedy.
Only by a little bit, though, because Espedy is already looking around the outside. This is for what should be net second place once we get the rest of our drivers pitting. He's still not able to fully get through as they're going to go wheel to wheel down into turn 1 with fresh rubber on both of them. Doesn't seem to be too much of an advantage on either side of the corner. Look at this. they're just going to cost each other even more time as Brophy continues to gap the pair.
They know that unless there's a caution, this is the final stop. So this track position is more important than ever. Both of them are just going to put their foot to the floor and hope it sticks at this point as they tuck in behind David Hall, who's ahead of them. Ryan Steele, Justin Morton both come in. Brophy re-inherits the lead of this race. Christian Challoner trying to make a move on Austin Espedy, but they're going to have to deal with lap traffic as well. They have a battle up ahead of them between Marcus Tracy and Wade Hayes. That's a battle for position. Things are getting spicy now for this second position battle.
Barring a couple who may need to fuel save, that should be everybody done with pit stops for this race. So, Brophy with the lead now by 1.5 seconds over Espedy, who is fighting with Christian Challoner for P2, and then a monstrous 5.5 seconds down to Liam Quinn, and we're coming close to 30 laps left to go. Travis Warling in that fight for second of the championship, still sitting in 5th place, but where is Driscoll? He's 23rd. And you mentioned earlier on to us that it was 124 points, but I think that was when Driscoll was higher up in the positions.
That was, I'll do the math again, Joe, but it definitely fluctuates quite a bit here. Christian Challoner, though, horror for him, unfortunately. He's stuck in between a bunch of lap cars. Austin Espedy already out over a second in front of him. Christian Challoner's just been caught out by the pit cycle.
This has not been the dominant day he is used to. Even still, when a driver is looking at a likely podium, and it's a bad day, then that tells you a lot about the quality of that driver. They put a lap on Ryan Steele now that he has come out from his pit stop. Challoner with an aggressive move, getting his nose down to the inside of Espedy into turn 1. Espedy's not going to fight that and lets him through. Or no, excuse me, that was Hall, rather. That was a lapped car. Now, Espedy's gaining on Brophy here.
I mean, Espedy is the pro when it comes to these Indy cars. But that being said, I wasn't expecting him to gain this quickly. Only 1 lap fresher tires. Espedy throwing everything into it this early stint.
And I don't recall that Brophy was close to the limit on the fuel stop. He's gaining right up on him. Look at him. Swing high in that blue kinetic machine. Could the next turn offer a passing opportunity? He's going to have the slipstream. Brophy holds the middle of the track, but it's just too wide to cover off every lane. And Espedy is back to the front.
Gutsy move there from Espedy to get back to that position. Is Brophy going to try and cross him up on the exit? Espedy goes wide. He has to back off just a little bit to save the car. Brophy looking to the inside, but Espedy could just pack it into this corner. He's still got enough tires to do it. He backs off just a little bit. Brophy trying to carry the speed. He's going to wash up in front of Espedy and regain that position. This is the battle for the lead, folks, and this might be the battle we watch for the rest of this race for the lead.
The game is certainly on. And down to the inside, Espedy is underneath and takes the lead back away from Brophy. Now, this sort of battle is the best friend of Christian Challoner. He's only 7 tenths back now from the two of them.
Yeah, Christian Challoner hoping that they continue to battle. Christian Challoner, I mean, he is gaining now. As these guys continue to go side by side, they're going to deal with some lap traffic, and how they navigate that lap traffic will determine everything. Remember on how Espedy broke away from Brophy, how Espedy broke away from Challoner. Because of the traffic, Brophy's going to have that same problem.
Looking on the high side, the 372 of Brophy. Wow. Wow, bottom lane, not favorable for the 77 as he drops back very, very fast.
Part of what's helping him there, Joe, is those lap cars in front of him. If you look where Brophy's positioning the car, he's picking up the draft coming out of the corner, and that's getting him a pull down the main straight. So that's a really, really heads-up tactical move there from Brophy.
And Espedy fell all the way back to Christian Challoner with that one. Challoner's maybe could run the draft of that car ahead of the 2 car, the 77 of Espedy, up to the leader. Right now they've got a buffer between them. That's Torres, who's a lap down. He's going to stay up high, let him dive it in. That's what Challoner needed. And of course, as we always say, a caution could change everything right now.
Absolutely. At this point, everyone would come back in for tires. Look at this. Christian Challoner looking low on Espedy. Espedy's just going to roll out of it here. He's probably going to try and do a crossover here on Challoner, as Challoner has to take it way wide on the exit of the corner. Espedy, though, not with enough speed. Espedy's actually backing it out here just a little bit as the leaders are going to run Bob Beltrami. They're going to be lapping 12th position and 11th position. That's Mark Stevenson, our sportsman champion that Brophy's about to put a lap down.
I suspect that maybe Espedy knows he can't fight him too much. If he wants to win, they got to work together a little bit. Beltrami and Stevenson in front, unfortunately not making life easy and slowing them up by a huge margin. Challoner's going to get the run and be able to get one at least, not two.
And remember, these guys are battling for position 2. Oh my goodness, Espedy way wide on the exit of 4, almost hit the outside wall. He's just lost a bunch of momentum there. Challoner now stuck behind Stevenson, who's actually just clinging to that rear draft of Brophy as they go into 1 and 2. Challoner, once again, that struggle with the front end on these tucked in behind these cars is really starting to plague him again.
And we're coming up to 20 laps to go here in a few moments' time. So it's ticking away, and the more that gap remains between Challoner and Brophy, the harder it is for him to take the victory here today. He has got to be right up on there to be able to leapfrog past him, but can he do it?
Well, the worst thing that could be happening for Christian Challoner right now is Mark Stevenson fanning out in front of him, taking that high line from Jason Brophy. It's denying Challoner any bit of clean air, as there's the move for the inside, and that could maybe open up the door to Challoner as Brophy's got to back out of it.
Brophy's not going to be happy about that one. It's down to 0.4 of a second as they cross the line. Oh, and he's going to get right back by. Stevenson being something of a headache for our leader.
Now Stevenson, remember, he's entitled to his place on track. He doesn't have to move over for Brophy. Christian Challoner, though, he's not gaining as much as I thought he would based upon how that interaction went between Stevenson and Brophy. Look at this, Brophy washing up significantly off of turn 4. Brophy's front tires just not turning the way they want to. I think Brophy might be dealing with that thing that Stevenson talked about in our one of our cautions. Having that car around the outside seems to pull him offline. Christian Challoner ducking to the inside of Stevenson here, and he's going to get that pass done. Yes, just barely. I think Stevenson might let him have it as they go into 3 and 4. Let's find out.
I hope he does. He doesn't have anything in this fight. If he lets him go, that
No, he doesn't.
Oh, wow. Oh, boy. Steve. Oh, we have a caution. And that is Ryan Steele on the front stretch. Oh, boy.
This was off the back of Austin Espedy.
Oh, no. And I think it was a little bit of ghost contact, but I actually think he would have hit regardless because Espedy looks like he went all the way up to the wall.
Now Ryan Steele's a lapped car trying to unlap himself from third place Austin Espedy. He goes to the outside into the grays. Osman's washing up as well, and they end up pinching together, and Ryan Steele ends up in the wall.
Boy, nobody yelling car high quick enough, unfortunately, for Austin Espedy.
Oh boy.
We are halfway through a stint pretty much, but we've only got 18 laps left to go. Who dares come in to take tires? Are they worth enough? We're going to find out in just a moment. Brophy feigning low. Is it legit? It is legit. Brophy's in. Stevenson out. He's a lap down. Challoner in. Espedy in. Any front runners?
I mean, you got to come, DJ, don't you?
Yeah, you can't not take tires here. You will be an absolute sitting duck if you don't.
Looks like the first one out is indeed our first car lap down of Mark Stevenson. Now it's a race on pit road.
Looks like Christian might have overslit his box just a hair. Let's see whether or not that affects him when they come out. Wow, very quick times as they get fuel and come out. Less than 10 seconds, less than 9 seconds. Brophy with 7.8, Christian Challenger with 8, and Austin Espedy with almost 8. Liam Quinn's back in this fight as well, Joe.
He is indeed. This allows him a second chance because he will restart in 4th place. We're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Just a few more laps to go here in the final round of the majors. It's the California 500. Who's going to take it all home? Welcome back to Auto Club Speedway. Will this be the final restart, or will we have more cautions breed cautions situations here? As we don't have too many left on the lead lap, only 18 cars on this restart. Jason Brophy, who has been strong in these last few stints, is going to lead the way. Christian Challenger, who suddenly has fallen off despite being a dominant force, is going to be starting in second. What about Austin Espedy? A little bit of contact last lap. Does he have damage from that one? And then Liam Quinn just desperately wants to try and take one victory this season. What can he do from P4? Brophy has control here as the Mustang pace car is down low. He ducks off. Green flag is out as Brophy is off. Going to be 16 laps to go here at the line. Challenger does not get a good restart. Espedy close behind him as they come down into turn 1. They leave a big gap back to the next one, which is a lapped car, Ryan Steele. And then basically it's those top 4 stretching away from everyone. Christian Challenger with a monster run. He's going to get down to the inside. He'll get the track position he so desperately craves, but can he hold on to it?
Brophy tried to close the door, can't quite do so. Austin Espedy now through into second place, and he's got a faster run than Christian Challenger. He's going to look to the inside line now as Liam Quinn tries to chase in behind them. Look at the run he has. He's trying to find a lane that's open, can't quite find it. Espedy to the bottom side. He's going to try and take the lead over from Christian. Going to be able to do so. Brophy follows him through, but can't get the power down out of the corner. It's going to be 3 wide for second as they exit 1 and 2.
And a caution, another caution. I think Ryan Steele again involved in this one.
It was.
He got tipped by Jeff Schmeier, sadly, and got sent spinning to the outside wall. Here's the incident. That probably is going to be day done for the number 12.
Oh, man.
Big
Nowhere, nothing he could do in that situation.
Yeah. Slight net code, I think, as well. The internet not treating him very well today. This is going to reset and give them even fewer laps to sort it out. But if we get down to a restart with very little to go, man, did you see Christian Challenger just fly on by? That second place looks like where you want to be on the restarts.
Yeah, DJ, it's something that I noticed as well about how the leader just seems like a sitting duck on these restarts, and especially the person in third or fourth seems to get such a big run when they come around for the second lap.
You read my mind, Adam. If I'm coming into these last couple of laps on a restart, the last place I want to be is in first. You want to be in second or third. Try to get that good draft off of 2. The main pass you're going to see for the lead being down that backstretch. The only hope you have if you are the leader is trying to sort of, frankly, willpower the start. Back everybody up a little bit and then just floor it and try to get a good jump. But other than that, you will be a sitting duck by the time you exit turn 2.
I believe in the rulebook for the majors, they offer about a 10-mile-per-hour buffer between the pace car speed and the speed you can lead people to the line on. So if Austin wanted to use that, and also I believe this is the first time we're seeing Austin Espedy lead a restart, and he has a lot of experience doing this. So this might be a different looking restart than we're used to.
Certainly could. I'm sure he's going to try and keep them on their toes. Brophy back there in second. Could be relatively happy with this, though. He knows he's going to be able to slipstream on by. And the restart, if I'm not mistaken, will be on lap 240. So it'll be a 10-lap sprint, barring another caution. In which, if that's the case, I believe we'd only really be able to get one more caution in.
What's amazing to me about this race so far, and of course knock on wood here, but we only have 5 cars out, and that includes Ryan Steele, who's taking repairs right now. He might still be able to get running. All these Ryan Steele definitely is within the 75% mark to get your points for this race. Andrew Waring, I believe he's going to fall short of that, unfortunately. Well, I'll have to keep my eyes out and recheck the rule book on that one, but considering this is the last race of the season, it's not going to matter so much for those drivers, but just impressive to see how many people we still have running and how clean this race has been so far.
I'm also trying to spot Travis Warling. Or excuse me, Steve Driscoll. There he is, 21st. So more points gained for the number 51. He's actually coming out of pit lane right now. And based on what you were telling me earlier, it does appear that he will still be second in the championship, although it'll be incredibly tight.
I'll see. So 21st position gives 286 points. So he would, so Travis Warling would gain 104 points on Steve Driscoll if they were to finish as they are.
Yeah. He needs roughly 122 points to tie him. And from there, I'm not sure how that tie would break because they're tied on wins currently. So we'll have to check the rule book on that. Regardless, could be a moot point because we're about to go racing once again. And Austin Espedy will lead the way, starting from 11th, ahead of our pole sitter, Jason Brophy, with Christian Challenger qualified 4th back there in 3rd place currently. Does he check him up, or does he hold station? He's holding station right now. Pace car is in. He goes immediately. Big off for Espedy, and that actually caught out Liam Quinn, who had to brake big time behind Christian Challenger. Down into turn 1. What's this going to look like on the back stretch? Oh, does he let him through? Espedy lets Brophy through. Is he going to try and get him back here on the back stretch?
Not a bad restart for either of them, but look at Liam Quinn with a head of steam down the bottom side. Espedy's going to try and cover him off on the bottom side as well. Here comes Christian Challenger trying to make a 3 wide around the outside. He tries to carry his speed, but here comes Travis Warling with a head of steam. Here he comes, flying off of turns 3 and 4. He's going to pass Liam Quinn on the inside, and look at this, Christian Challenger to the middle, 3 wide for the lead.
Everybody's on it now. 10 laps to go, and Warling needs these spots, by the way, for that second place in the championship. All he needs is 4th or higher with how things sit with his rival, and he's thinking the lead. No, that's Quinn down at the bottom. Quinn with a mighty run on the backstretch, 3 wide, and he's going to take the top spot away. Behind him, Brophy gets a little bit of the slipstream and then comes back up high. Espedy back in third place is boxed in by Christian Challenger, who himself is going to make it 3 wide.
This is intense stuff. They have Wade Hayes, a lap cars tucked in behind them. Jeff Schmeier's catching up to this Aaron Roofs as well. These guys going 3 wide is making them very, very slow on track, and this is bringing everybody to the fore now. Here we go with Liam Quinn currently leading, but look at this. Jason Brophy trying to go all around the outside. Here comes Wade Hayes trying to unlap himself. Travis Worling stuck underneath him. He's going to lose some time.
This really is looking like a super speedway race for NASCAR. And Liam Quinn, who's going to have a nose ahead of Brophy that time by, maybe starting to think, I've got to time this thing down to the line. This could come down to who gets the run off of turn 4 on lap 250. As they come around, Brophy to the outside has a little bit of momentum. So does Christian Challenger, but he can't get up high. There's Austin Espedy on his way.
It's very, very tight between these drivers. Liam Quinn on the bottom lane just sticks it to the bottom lane, is able to pull up ahead of Brophy. Brophy trying to carry more momentum off the corner, is going to get to his right rear tire. Christian Challenger cannot go below that white line in order to pass. We saw that in the international region. Oh, no contact. Travis Worling up into Wade Hayes. They're going to keep going, though. Fortunately, still green.
Hayes trying to get off the racing line so that we don't see a caution. He is down and off, but how damaged is Worling? He's in 8th. His visions of 2nd place drifting away, but meanwhile up at the front, Espedy on the high side of Brophy, who's above Quinn rather. 6 to go at the line. Quinn is the first to the line that time by. The bottom is where it seems you want to be.
Christian Challenger's just stuck in behind these guys who are 3 wide. He's got to find some way to break up this battle in order to get himself to a position where he could possibly challenge for this lead. But Austin Espedy with a great run on the high side. There he goes around the high side trying to make this work. But Brophy, Quinn, Espedy 3 wide as they go through 3 and 4.
And we got a couple dark horses in there as well. Roofs gets down underneath Christian Challenger. Schmeier, that's on the lead lap. So is Scott Corbin. There are effectively 7 cars who could win this race. 3 wide one more time, down into turn 1 with 5 to go. The bottom line with Liam Quinn stuck to the white line there at the bottom has not been willing to give it up. Brophy has been trying to carry his momentum as best he can. DJ, can he pinch him down? Can he do anything to maybe try and get this lead away?
If you've got fresh tires and low on that white line, it's very, very hard to do. The only thing I can think of Brophy doing is trying to do a massive over-under move off of turn 2 to try to get down to that inside. But right now, Quinn's too smart for him, and it's just sticking that white line the whole way around the track.
Challenger falling back now. Challenger all the way back to 7th position right now as these leaders continue to be tight between Brophy, Quinn, Espedy. Brophy with a nose ahead as they go into 3 and 4. That's Jeff Schmeier and Aaron Roofs battling for 4th position, tucked in behind them. Christian Challenger now starting to gain his steam once again, but look at this, it's now 2 wide. Brophy, Quinn, Espedy trying to gain a little bit more draft to make the pass.
I wonder if Espedy could maybe set this one up if he times it right, gets a double slipstream from the pair of them. 3 to go. He's been dropping back like this and sizing them up. Oh, drifting them up a little bit this time. And Espedy is going to go to the high side. I wonder if Espedy maybe could time it so that he could sneak under Liam Quinn down the back stretch, because Quinn left a gap. 2 to go at the line.
I think that's the only move he's going to be able to make. Christian Challenger is trying to find his way back there, but look at this. Aaron Roofs up to this battle as well. There is enough room to go 4 wide on the front and back straights, but it's a dangerous proposition here. But with Aaron Roofs there, Espedy might not be able to do that crossover you were talking about. Let's see whether he thinks about it. He's still stuck in there behind Brophy, as Brophy and Quinn still side by side. Espedy trying to make it work.
This is getting very close. If they get to the white flag, it's going green to the end. Coming around turns 3 and 4. Roofs drifting up high, and this time staying back, holding back. Now he gets in it. White flag is out. They're going to finish under green on the bottom side. It is Liam Quinn ahead of Jason Brophy. Who is going to take this one away? Espedy backs it up. Is he trying to set him up? Oh, don't forget Roofs and Schmeier back there as well. Down the backstretch. They come through 3 and 4. Quinn still holding the bottom side, not willing to give way. It's going to be a run to the line. Who's going to have the momentum? It's a shorter line for Quinn, but a nose ahead. Here goes Brophy, and he takes it on the final lap. Incredible! Just
What
amazing!
I mean, an unbelievable restart from all these drivers to keep everything facing straight. Unlucky break for Travis Warling, unfortunately, but he was able to climb all the way back up to 8th even after that contact. Oh, man.
Wow. And poor Jeff Schmeier lost control right on the final corner, almost crossed the line through the grass. That sent him backwards into 6th. Brophy with a master stroke. Couldn't get the lead away from him for the final 10 laps, and yet somehow managed to eke ahead when it matters. So we're going to take a break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back not only with the unofficial results and driver interviews, we have special announcements coming up. So don't go away. Welcome back to Auto Club Speedway. The race that we just witnessed came down to inches at the line. And Jason Brophy, who looked like he wasn't going to get it in those final laps, somehow eked out 19 thousandths ahead of Liam Quinn to claim victory. And Quinn with second was ahead of Austin Espedy, who did get a podium. Aaron Roofs in fourth, ahead of a surprise fifth place finish for Christian Challenger, who just somehow fell away at the very end. Jeff Schmeier in P6 was followed by Scott Corbin in seventh place. Travis Warling finished in eighth. That is not going to get him second in the championship, sadly. Mark Stevenson with a ninth. There's the top 10 he was looking for. And Wayne Hutchison rounding out the top 10.
Nick Kuhn on an alternate strategy all day with the cautions he needed at the end of the day to settle it out, ends up in 11th place with Bob Beltrami with his long stop during the first stint paying off for 12th. Brian Barnes comes home in 13th place with Marcus Tracy in 14th. Jason Wallach coming home in 15th spot with Lynn Kinchlow 16th. Justin Morton in 17th spot, the last car on the lead lap. Then you have Brian McGreevy, Kevin Hill, and Steve Driscoll rounding out your top 20, DJ.
In 21st was Adam Hollick, followed by David Hall, Grotto Perez Torres in 23rd, Brett Torson in 24th, Wade Hayes 25th, Ryan Steele 26th. These guys not seeing the final flag there by the end, followed by Andrew Warren, Lyndon Swaby, Rob Gall, and William Fletcher.
And I believe we're going to talk to our winner, Jason Brophy, who parachuted in to see what he can do against the best of the best in the world here. And Jason, you proved yourself an IndyCar master today, but talk about those final laps. Were you trying to set yourself up for that run to the line, and did you think you could do it?
Yeah, I had a feeling I knew what it was going to take, and it was going to take me getting a good run through 1 and 2, and then just holding Liam as tight as possible. And it's, you spend the really the 8-9 laps trying to get in front as best you can in case of a caution before that, but then you're just I was just prepping for the last lap in case it wasn't. So, trying to figure out how tight I could go. And I know on that last lap I held it tighter than I had in any of the laps before. So, it was a blast.
It was a blast to watch for sure. Before that, in one of the stints late in the race, we did notice that you suddenly were able to pull a monster gap on everybody else. What made the difference there compared to all the other drivers?
Christian and Liam were fighting tight. I managed to get around the 2 lap cars, and then I could kind of have clean air and just keep my foot in it. And they were struggling behind the lap cars. They just couldn't quite get to the lap cars. They kind of fought. I know Christian and Austin fought back and forth a bit there, and that meant that I could start to gap as they fought and dealt with the dirty air. And then I got kind of outside that draft range, and they were still trying to fight through the lap cars. So once they got through the lap cars, and then once I started to catch more, I started dealing with the plow, and that closed the gap up as we got to the pit stops. So, yeah. It was going to be interesting there.
That is for sure. Well, should we be expecting you a little bit more in the majors then? Because you have shown yourself to be quite a mighty driver here today.
Yeah, I do plan on running it next season, at least a lot more than this season. I think I ran one race, the F1. I had some things come up for the other ones, but I was planning on running a couple others before the end of the season here. So I know that I may be independent, but I am part of Team Talent with Liam and Austin, so an IndyCar team, and so that's where this stuff kind of comes in. It was a blast. Those guys raced us real well. So and this was a great, awesome race, awesome event.
We concur. Well, congratulations again on the win. And before you take off, feel free to thank anybody or give any shout outs.
Obviously, Liam, Christian, Austin. I think that was about as much fun as I've had racing in quite a while. Everybody else that was in there, that was a very clean race overall. I think we had a lot of great green flag runs. Came down to a fist fight. I get to give iRacing credit. That was close quarters race and no one died. We're going 220. The prediction never predicted that we were going to hit, and none of us went sailing off into a fence from, well, I say at least Liam and I and Austin. So I was kind of half expecting it and did fantastic. So you guys, thanks for broadcasting, Mike for putting the races on, as well as everybody else involved in majors. So
that was Jason Brophy, our winner. Up next, Adam has caught up with Liam Quinn, who you have to feel for, still winless this season.
Yeah, Liam coming within 2/100ths of a second of a win here today. But talk me through that last restart, the tough fight between you, Brophy, and Espedy.
I think we knew as soon as the course come out, it was just gloves off, really. To be fair, I think Jason, based on the race itself, does definitely deserve to get the win. So I'm not too upset with P2, considering I was looking at P4, maybe P5 with Travis catching me. So with that situation, you kind of just you pick a lane and you stick with it. And that bottom lane, you bottom out coming out of 2, into 1 and out of 4. So I was holding it for dear life a couple of times. So came close though.
Absolutely. In the couple of runs previous, though, it seemed like you were having trouble later on in the run with getting the front end to turn, especially in traffic. But you seem to be fine in clear air because you were leading a couple of runs before that. What do you think was making the difference in those later stages of the run?
I put a ton more wing into it later in the stint, but I was telling Christian, like, my strategy of avoiding dirty air was just not be in it, be in the lead and hope for the best, really. But I don't think I was good enough for fuel. So I had to drop behind Brophy, and that's when I really started to struggle. So I think Austin and Brophy especially just outdrove us today.
And thinking back on this season and your performances this season, what do you think is the biggest takeaway you're going to take out of this season?
Preparation and performance has been better than I expected. The results haven't been, but I'm not too fussed about that. I don't think I was in the fight for the championship anyway, with how Christians just tore up the whole thing. But more results, more consistency, and I'll be right up there, I think.
Well, Liam, it's great to see you finish second in this race. Great to talk to you again. And is there anyone you want to thank for the season before we let you go?
Yeah, all Kinetic, all Team Talent. Really good preparation for the season and done really well in all 3 regions. And obviously all the admin team at the majors. It's a great series.
Well, thanks for talking to us, Liam, and we look forward to seeing you next season.
Yeah, hoping to get a win this season though.
Yeah, absolutely. That was Liam Quinn, our second place finisher, and it looks like DJ Clark has caught up with Austin Espedy.
Austin, we haven't been able to stop talking about it. Just an insane last couple of laps there after that restart. You were trying everything you could do to make that high line work. Talk us through it.
Yeah, the last was 10 laps or so. It was pretty intense. I know when I got the lead, I should have held to the inside, but I didn't think my set could handle it. But then I saw Liam hug the bottom the entire final 10 laps, and I knew I should have. I was just trying to make the outside work as I could, get runs. And yeah, it was a very intense 10 laps. It kind of just all blurs into one.
I understand that. You've kind of fell back a little bit off the radar during the course of the race. What kind of stuff were you changing in the car and on the pit stops to get you back up to the front? Obviously, the cautions help, but it seemed like you really had much more pace by the end of the race.
I didn't change anything at all during the pit stops. I just kept up on my weight checker, and the track kind of flowed in. And I figured figured out how to run, where to run, and how to be better in lap traffic. My car was better in a pack of 4 than it was in a pack of 2 or 3. So it's just the little things. But I think with like 20 to go, I got caught up in that little incident with Ryan. But I think if it stayed green, I might have had a shot, but it would have been really close.
Well, it was an incredible run to watch no matter what. Before we let you go, Austin, anybody you need to thank tonight?
Yeah, everyone at Kinetic, Liam for building a really fast race car and qualifying set, and just everyone at Kinetic all season. I've had bad luck. I've basically crashed every race, but hopefully this podium turns things around for 2021.
Well, thank you very much, Austin. And Joe, we throw back to you.
Absolutely. I have a special guest that we're going to talk to. Those who are familiar with the majors knows exactly who is coming up, and that is Mike Willett, the organizer of the series. Mike, congratulations on a spectacular 2020. Even though it was a bit of a rout in terms of the Pro Drivers Championship, we had some of the best racing we've seen all season. What's your take?
It was a great year. And hey, Joe, thanks for having me on, and really appreciate all the work you guys have done, not just this year, but for the last 8. But it was a great year. This was by far our biggest year in terms of participation for all 3 regions. Hopefully we can just keep building excitement in the series. But yeah, when you watch a race like the one tonight, it makes you feel really good about what you're about what you're building. When you watch a race that is indistinguishable, or in some cases, dare I say, even better quality racing than you might see in the real deal, it makes you feel good, and we hope to be able to extend that to every region for every race. But at least that's the goal. Anyway, it was awesome to watch, and I hope those guys are proud of themselves because it was a great show.
Now, pats on the back aside, the real reason we have you up here is, of course, you have the announcement for what next season's schedule is.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll be talking about the schedule on the Majors YouTube channel here in 6 minutes. So we'll be going over that from top to bottom. I'm excited to do that. So if I think Sean's putting the link in the chat, awesome. So that'll be going live here in just a couple of minutes. But with regard to the schedule, we are keeping the 3 regions, so the Americas, the European, and the international. And I'm super excited to announce that you guys, GSRC, is going to be handling both the Americas and the European region for us next year.
We are extremely excited as well. We've been keeping that under our hats for a moment now, and are looking forward to being able to cover more than one of these, as that's something that we've hoped to do for some seasons now. Man, Mike, we can't thank you enough, not only for hiring us to cover these, but also for the incredible amount of work that you do behind the scenes to make this happen. And of course, to all of your helpers, your staff is immense just to make sure that these things all kick off and go smoothly. So our huge hats off and thank you to you for everything you've done all these past years.
Oh, absolutely, Joe. Thank you. And we absolutely could not have done this without you guys. And I do, of course, want to thank Wayne Hutchison, John King, Travis Warling, Andres Robertson, and Eric Mickey, who are our current competition committee members. We've got 2 or 3 new guys we're adding for next year, and just really excited to be working with GSRC as always. And of course, you guys are covering our new MTech series here starting in just a couple weeks.
Also very excited for that. Looking forward to some good endurance racing there. Well, thank you for coming and talking to us, Mike. And I look forward to the fun of the schedule being revealed and see how everybody reacts. That was Mike Willett, our winner. Sorry. Well, I guess he wins everything for being able to put all this on and being the head honcho for this one. Force a habit on phrasing there, but in general, just very happy to be involved with Mike as we enjoy getting to work with him. So thank you once again to Mike as well. Want to remind you that our charity for this race is the Susan G. Komen Breast Cancer Foundation. They are at komen.org. We've got a link in the description below if you want to help out there. A thanks goes out to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts that are listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Sean, Adam, DJ, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Or you can check out our social media outlets, which includes Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to support us, check out our merchandise store at gsrc.storenvy.com. Got a link in the description below if you just want to click it down there. And the next race that you'll find out in just a moment is going to be the Daytona 2.4. That'll be January 17th at 8 p.m. Eastern, so definitely don't miss out on that one. Stick around over at the Majors channel to see all the other races that are going to be coming in 2021. And we have other races coming up here on our channel listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.